Gather round, freaks. Tonight, the lightning crackles across the sky and a hand emerges from the earth. Or does it? We turn the pages on the grimoire of familiar killers once again and ask the question, hey, see this one?
The night is dark, and the air is still. The moon casts an eerie glow over the internet, where a group of curious individuals have gathered to discuss their shared fascination for the macabre. They hold in their hands a book with a foreboding presence, bound in flesh and inked in blood, a tome of horror that only opens its pages when a sacrifice is made. Within its ancient passages lie the secrets of the most infamous murderers and monsters of all time. Join us. But beware, for once this book is open, there's no telling what horrors may be unleashed. This is the grimoire of familiar killers.
Okay, great. We did it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hey, Did You See This One? Episode 127. We are here where this looks new because it is. We're on a new platform and we're streaming live to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch tonight. Interesting opening. I think we still got the point across. That was our maiden voyage. First of all, I'd like to, Steve, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
I'd like to introduce our guest this week, Noel K. Noel K, welcome back to the show. Noel K, welcome. There we go.
Sorry, there's a bit of a delay on that.
Thank you. Welcome back. This is a spooky night. We are turning the...
Oh my god, he's laughing twice.
We're turning the pages. That was last week. Last week we covered Seed of Chucky, or Semen of Chunk, as I like to call it.
Oh my god.
This week we turned the page to a greasy, grimy, hockey mask embedded page for Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. This is a fantastic movie. Nothing else needs to be said. We'll see you next week. No, we have to talk about this. Noel was, see, we got a little thing at the bottom that says the movie. Check that out.
All right, you don't need to say everything.
I know. I'm very excited. Noel, thank you for coming back. Before we get into the normal stuff, we're going to talk about the guessing game. Every week I put up a piece of the poster and I get people to guess on what movie we're doing this week. This week we got some hits. So this is...
Congratulations! You have successfully guessed the correct answer, which is the answer you provided. Congratulations!
Congratulations! We had some interesting guesses this week, but many people were like, it's Saw. It's Babe Pig in the City. Somebody was even like, Gentlemen Prefer Ginger. I believe that's the name of a 70s erotic film.
Oh,
But no.
appropriate. If you know who
let
the
me-
director is of this film.
Yeah. I want to start off, instead of going, I want to start off with Matt Phillips' incorrect guess.
Everybody
Because this
Close
week,
your eyes and cover your ears.
yeah, go to bed, children. It's now the adults are talking. Matt Phillips came in and said, because it was a picture of part of Jason's mask, I assume he said, Glory Holes 4. What's better than 3 glory holes? What a goofy thing to say. Now for the real stuff. Tim, friend of the show, former guest of the show, his friend got it right and wanted to convey. In celebration of the horror theme of the grimoire, Derek shares his favorite quote from Reanimator by Jeffrey Combs. Cat dead, details later. Have a great show. I've never seen it, but
He says, what exactly was I supposed to say on a note? Cat dead, details later?
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Jeffrey Combs line. Good movie, perverted movie, weird movie, but I like it.
This movie's perverted.
Yeah, it's perverted in a different way, and it's also a good movie. This is not.
This is a
I
thing
mean, it's
I
the
watched.
greatest movie ever. You should all stick around.
Stick around and find out. Stick around and find out what's gonna happen.
All right.
Okay, sorry. Next up, we have Craig, former guest of the show. I believe he's done Freddy movies a couple times. Craig Webster. He said, if you're in Toronto, come out to Swan Dive on March 30th. That's on Bloor, where I, aka Brother Wayne, which is his DJ name, will be DJing my final night as I'll be hanging up my headphones and retiring from the wheels of steel. It'll be a great night with lots of Motown, soul, classic rock, new wave, hip hop, and alt rock. Unrelated, Michael Mongiardi is the handsomest. That shouldn't have read that.
Wrong guest.
Yep. And Noel K is the handsomest, is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys put show links in your show notes, but he put a link to the event. Gordon McDonald has guessed correctly before, and he said Free Palestine. And then Ben, friend and former guest of the show, Ben Mason, wanted to say he does an 80s and 90s shock movie podcast called the BS Bargain Bin. And this week, they're celebrating their 150th episode with 1992's Candyman. Tune in next week as Ben tortures Sandro with the film that traumatized him as a child. And
Nice.
that's great because
That movie, I would like to rewatch it.
it would seem like we ripped them off because they did 25 episodes and we were like, what if we did a podcast about movies that are like, hey, did you see this one at a party? And that's the exact basis for their show, as it turns out. It's totally, what's that thing when
I think that
comedians,
there's a lot of shows that do this, so I don't think we need to really worry about ripping anybody off.
this is, hey, did you see this one? The reaction, review, and discussion podcast. And this week we're doing Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. I bring that up because if you're watching this on Twitch or Facebook or YouTube, please give us a like and a follow. You can find us where all social medias are done. Basically, I've kind of put the brakes on like Twitter and Threads and tertiary bullshit. But we are going strong on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So with that, yeah, that's right. We're in 3D, baby.
Oh man, Chucky loves that.
Chucky loves that. But with that, I think we can move. Oh yeah, and shout out to White Bat Audio, who always does our music they don't know that they do. Who does our music for the pre-show that you heard those lovely sounds in those first 10 minutes. So go follow them on YouTube.
Yeah.
But now we get to talk about our brief history.
A brief history.
Around here, it's a time-honored tradition to give our guests the first opportunity to give their brief history. So, Noel, give us your long, arduous, luxurious, let me get my thesaurus out, history of Friday the 13th, Part A New Beginning.
Okay. So I believe that what I'm doing is called pinch hitting. Is my mic working?
Yeah, I
Fine.
can hear you. You sound
Okay.
great.
fantastic. So I became aware of this movie about 24 hours ago when you asked me if I could watch this movie for this episode. You were like, can you be on Thursday? And I said, you mean tomorrow? And you said, yeah, I guess so.
Full disclosure, I thought it was Tuesday.
So that's my incredibly long history of this movie. Then I watched it in 10-minute increments while I was walking home on the subway as well, and any little break that I got.
What a fun way to watch this movie.
Yeah, you didn't miss much, I'm sure.
Yeah, you messaged me yesterday being like, commenting on the movie, and then you're like, I almost just got hit by a car. And I was like, wait, are you walking around watching this right now?
I did almost get hit by a car.
That's great.
So yeah, I have not seen any Jason, let alone many.
My name's Jason.
That is wild that your sort of introduction to this series is the 5th one, and quite possibly the worst one.
The worst. It's got to be.
I meant to prepare for the other movie that I was going to watch and watch some of the background and read up a little bit on it and possibly listen to another podcast. So.
Well, I can tell you really don't need that much of a backstory for Jason Voorhees as a character.
I'm getting that vibe.
Yeah. We'll go through a little bit as we talk about the movie, but most of the information you need to know is about Tommy Jarvis, because they don't give you any in this movie, really.
No.
Nor does he talk.
Wow, that would have been confusing, I'm realizing now, if you haven't seen any of the other ones. Thank you, Noel. Steve, I think you might have a more of a briefer history. Nope, a longer history with the film.
I'll keep it brief.
Okay.
As we're meant to do. I watched this movie in high school when I watched all the other ones, because there was often marathons of these on TV. Obviously edited a little bit, because this movie has a lot of nudity. Boobies. Yes.
Boobies.
I think this is one of the only horror movies where pretty much every single character with boobs shows their boobs. And the ones where you don't see their boobs, they're wearing t-shirts that get wet and you can pretty much see their boobs. It's not great. But once we get into director talk, it'll make a little bit more sense. I don't really remember much from this movie, but I do realize that there are certain mannerisms that I've picked up from Ethel, and I didn't know until now. When I get displeased with somebody, particularly when I was a bartender, I would refer them as a big dildo. Like, you big dildo, like when they messed up. I'm realizing now I got this from this movie. I also call people perverts like Ethel. Am I Ethel? Am I a dirt farmer? She farms dirt, right? I don't know. They never really say what she's farming, but she's always covered in dirt. I know she's got chickens. Not a long history. Even the video game doesn't really pay too much attention to this movie. They didn't model Tommy Jarvis after the actor in this movie. The locations in this movie are not really in the game at all, as most of the other movies are. But the Jason Voorhees skin for this movie is in the game, and when you knock his mask off, it has like the weird actor from this movie there, because in this movie it's not actually Jason Voorhees. Spoiler
banner.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of spoilers in this.
Noel's already on it with the headlines and stuff. Oh, I guess there are also headlines.
Anywho, that's my brief history. Not a lot. There's almost nothing in this movie that I remember as being a thing that sticks with you either. I mean, maybe what's his name? The actor from Joanna Man, going like, ooh baby, ooh baby, ooh baby. I remember that weird song that they definitely made up on the spot. All right. Anyway, that's me. Brief history.
Sounded vaguely like an old doo-wop song. Mine's interesting, and I kind of confirmed this with my dad.
We'll be the judge of that.
Many times over the years, and then last night I texted him and I said, "Hey Dad, I watched the Friday the 13th movie that I'm named after." That's right, I'm named after this stupid piece of crap in a roundabout way. So when my parents were coming up with my name, it was going to be maybe Christopher, maybe Justin, maybe Bear was one of the names that was thrown. around for me, but they came. My mom was like, "What about Jason? Jason's like the big hip name to be called in 1985." And my dad was like, "Yeah, but there's that slasher. There's this. That's
Your dad looked up to one corner and he just went.
But the thing is they were sure that in the fourth movie he's dead and done, and then this movie comes out and solidifies that Jason is fucking. That's it. There's no more Jason. It's gonna be all. It's all gonna be copycat killers going forward. Jason is dead forever. Let's name our son Jason. Another movie came out literally like the next year. I think Jason Part 6 is 86 or 87. So I'm saddled with this name because of that. There is a little bit more to that. He also low-key was like, my dad's a huge stoner, and he was like, what if it's because I smoke weed and I smoke J's? He's my Jason.
Oh, God.
So dumb. Either way,
your dad is definitely a character from a Friday the 13th character or movie. Like
he's the idiot son. He's Ethel's idiot son junior.
Oh no.
But that's pretty much my brief history on that front. I watched this movie yesterday, and I didn't watch it in parts like I normally do. I sat down and watched this whole thing because horror movies, for whatever reason, I find them to be much more digestible because it's just dumb crap. It's like a TikTok. Horror movies are like TikToks sometimes. They're just dumb fun. And that's my brief history.
Sweet.
Do you want to talk about a director?
Oh, you mean director talk?
All right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of shit. Sound. Speed. Action!
No Holds Barred is the best thing I've ever read today. So, thank you.
So Paul Verhoeven was the director of this movie, right?
Almost. I think that he wrote the script, and then this piece of work, Danny Steinmann, showed up, and he made it instead. It does feel like it takes place in the Showgirls universe, like they could be happening simultaneously at different parts of America.
It's just weird 80s, I think. Like the 80s just look kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it does even resemble in terms of cinematography and lighting a Verhoeven movie, but he often does have that sort of like flat, drab look to everything purposely, right? Because it makes people uncomfortable, and that's what he loves. But this movie, I think they just like, yeah, we'll just all we got to do is have a lot of violence and nudity, and it'll work out in the end.
It's supposed to be like 1992 also in this movie.
Yeah, this is another one that has a time jump.
Future?
It's in the future because they had a time jump, right? So the movie came out not that long after the fourth movie, but they wanted to age up the character of Tommy Jarvis. So it
6 years probably.
Future, yeah. So for those who don't know, in the fourth movie, Tommy Jarvis is
like
played
me.
by he's played by Corey Feldman, who
I
has
didn't know that.
Yeah, he had yet to sort of reach the height of his child acting powers. He was in a lot of stuff, but this movie is when he was really sort of like the hot commodity as a child actor. So it was kind of difficult for them to get him back for this movie. So the director set up a rain machine in his backyard in California. I can't remember where in California. Just pick a place in California and we'll know. They filmed on the weekends because he was filming The Goonies at the same time. So he would, on like Saturday and Sunday, just put a raincoat on when the sun went down and sit in his backyard going, because that's all he does. But this is director talk. We're talking about the director. The director of this movie has made no other movies outside of porno movies. He's a pornographer. He was credited about this movie as saying, I shot a fucking porno in the woods there. You wouldn't believe the nudity they cut out. He basically was shooting this movie like a porno, and it does kind of feel like a porno without any porn in it. I mean, there's like very softcore pornography in the movie, but when it comes down to it, he was just filming a porno. And
why does she sleep topless and with the covers up to her, below her boobs. It doesn't.
It's the summer. It's hot.
Yeah, that's what it is. Hot, all right.
But yeah, I don't think
Give me more cocaine.
I don't think that he had a lot of respect for the project. I mean, not saying that you need to have a lot of respect going into a Friday the 13th movie, but you should probably treat it seriously. But from what I understand, the filming of this movie was just a terrible man filming it like a piece of smut, fueled by endless amounts of cocaine, and was treating the actors like they were props to be used in a porno film, not a regular film. And most of the actors have removed themselves from this. They all thought they were making something completely different. I think the main actor, he went on to say, like, before this, he thought the script was about somebody who was dealing with these murders and thinking that he was the murderer, and that was the whole concept for the movie, was a person who thought maybe he was murdering people. I can't remember what the film was called, but it wasn't called Friday the 13th anything. It had like a code name or whatever, and then they revealed to him it's actually Friday the 13th 5. He was like, oh man, I already signed the contract, I'm obligated to be in this now, which is the case for a lot of the actors. But yeah, I don't have a lot on the director because I didn't really feel like digging deep into his filmography.
Do you have his IMDb pulled up? Do you have any choice selects that you can tell us about?
Names?
Yeah.
Titles.
Because I watched this on Amazon, and so I watched it with the X-ray thing on like the entire time. So I was like reading trivia and everything as I was going along, which made the whole situation much more enjoyable. But this guy was supposed to direct a completely different movie. That project fell through, so he was given Friday the 13th instead.
Okay.
And then on top of this,
I don't remember the name though, because it was like a word that I didn't really understand. And also, originally, you were supposed to think that Tommy was doing the murders, and he was supposed to think so as well, which was also in the X-ray.
Right.
The script also felt like a Nightmare on Elm Street, with how stereotypical the like characters were and how like over the top, like even for a Friday the 13th movie, it's super over the top. And the writing process for this was like, I don't know, get a nerd, a fat guy, a badass, a sex pot couple, a fucking preppy. I don't care. We'll kill them all.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, when people get tricked into doing like the Spider-Man movies now because they think they're Marvel movies. They're like, they tell them it's a Marvel movie, and they sign up for it, and then it's like, oh no, it's a Sony.
It's a Sony piece of shit.
Presented by
What's
Marvel.
the next one? Craven the Hunter?
Craven.
I can't wait.
I thought that got canceled.
One actually, oh, did it? I thought that one looked okay.
It got canceled?
I don't know.
Johnston is.
I thought so. Anyway, the movies he made, High Rise, The Unseen, and Savage Streets, are the 3 that he's credited as. And he didn't use his real name for 2 of them.
Savage Streets, eh? What do they get up to there? Philandering?
Fun. Yeah.
A little joke here on Hey, did you see this one? Because we're a comedy podcast.
You know who thought that was funny?
What?
Jason laughs.
A little
He's laughing in the bushes. Yeah. Anyway, I don't have a lot to add about the director because I'm sure we'll bring it up throughout the discussion. But he didn't.
There's a little picture of him in the X-ray floating, like it would just basically.
With like,
you could scroll down, and take a look at him,
powder around his face. Yeah.
Just holding up a mirror.
Yeah.
The biggest line you've ever seen in your life. Well, let's stop talking about this porn director and talk about this adult film. This is the body of the episode, I guess.
Everybody back up, because here comes the body of the episode.
Feels a little wrong to do that one for this.
I mean, it felt right to me. That's why.
Oh, look. We're gonna get a rating spike because there's a cute puppy
on screen. Yeah.
Look at that! Look at that! Nostradamus has a cute doggy, and the internet said yes, please.
You're welcome.
What's the name of the poochman?
Rory.
Roy.
Rory.
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 A real
Rory. like Rory Calhoun.
I was gonna say a real Roy toy, and then I fell on my face, so I'm gonna say
Her-
real Rory
Her
toy.
name is Lorelai, so we call her Rory.
Called him so many times just now. Okay, bye.
Oh,
So
he's
we're
gone.
at the body of the episode.
Yeah.
The puppy. It is a puppy. She's 14 weeks old. So.
The puppy of the episode.
Oh my god.
This is a great so far.
It's
This
so
movie
good.
was fantastic.
Listen, Corey Feldman watches two kids dig up Jason, kill him with a pick and a machete.
All right, come on. The movie opens with young Tommy Jarvis. And it's clearly like and it's played by Corey Feldman, which is the only part of the movie we get to see him. We hear his voice a couple of times throughout the movie, but for like Noel, for example, would not really know that it's his voice, I don't think, because he doesn't speak at all. And it's like it would be very confusing to someone. This is a movie where you can make the case of like you cannot just watch these movies without knowing anything because they won't make any sense whatsoever.
True.
But I mean, it's a dream sequence, but is it? Who knows?
I knew it was.
It could be a memory. No,
Okay,
but it could
hold
not
on.
be.
So
No,
I
like
haven't seen any of this, but there's enough Jason stuff, Friday the 13th, in the zeitgeist that like I got what was happening. I know the gist. Like I don't think that.
I mean, at the time, like the era of the movie coming out, it would probably be very hard for someone who was not, because I mean, I guess it was big and probably like Saw level of like, when Saw 4 came out, everybody's like, I get it. They get locked in a warehouse and they have to chop off their fingernails or whatever to get out.
To get the key out.
Yeah.
My whole thing with this opening was that I was like, oh, interesting. It basically takes place right after it left off. And also, I know that one of the movies, they resurrect Jason with a lightning bolt or something.
Not yet.
But I thought that was this one. So I thought this was legit. And then I was like, oh, this is weird. It doesn't feel right. It's shot in this weird, like, not in a dreamy way, but in like a weird, unsettling way.
Weird porno way.
In a weird porno way. And then I was
thinking
like,
that those guys were going to have sex with Jason's corpse.
they just, nope. And then they don't, but they get murdered. The problem with this movie, my biggest problem, is the kills are both somehow more brutal, but like they show even less. We'll talk about it as we go through, because I have all the kills outlined.
19. My favorite part of the X-ray was that they were showing continuity errors.
Oh my god!
Like
I'm
it would be like,
glad you watched the X-ray.
Spoiler: 1 hour, 2 minutes. The blood on his face keeps switching. The amount of toilet paper keeps fluctuating. There's a thing on the wall that says this, so that you'd think that he was the killer. Like it was amazing.
The amount of toilet paper keeps fluctuating is hilarious, because I'm like, they probably had to wipe all the cocaine off of the counter or whatever, so they were using the toilet paper to do it
in the outhouse and then just putting it back.
Yeah, exactly.
But there was a lot of it was like a constant stream of like continuity error facts that were
I'm so excited for you.
That's what happens when you are watching a terrible movie over and over again, is you cannot, your brain doesn't care about the movie, so you're just focusing on the stuff that really doesn't matter if it's a good movie. Continuity is important, obviously, but the better the movie is, the less you're going to know. And even if you do notice it, you don't care, because you're like,
yeah,
at least it's a good movie.
Like the guy from Joanna Man's ridiculous Jerry curl, the greasiest Jerry curl I think I've ever seen put to cinema. Also,
yeah, he was kind of like, he had sort of like a, what's the guy who did the music for Ghostbusters called?
Here he is on coming to the stage.
Ray
Parker Jr.
Or like a Prince, kind of like,
yeah,
where it was like sort of a
Rick James. Rick James is the famous,
right.
And Eazy-E, famous Jerry curl guy.
But it was kind of like they were just sort of like, what is the look that we can give this person, this character?
I thought he was.
What are some stereotypes we can throw at the audience?
I mean, we can just throw his picture on
black guy in jumpsuit. Girl,
I mean, Michael Jackson in the Thriller video is kind of like.
So this is what. Okay, that's exactly what it was. It was Michael Jackson, because I was like, this guy looks exactly like the guy in The Wedding Singer, who's dressed to look like the guy like Michael Jackson in that era.
When his buddy's like, I got the Thriller jacket.
Right.
Say hi to your brother Tito.
Yeah.
Hey, audio brother Tito. The print that I had. I don't. Did you all, Steve? I think you have the DVD or you own it on Xbox. Noel and I watched it on Amazon. I thought the print that is streaming looked fantastic. So all of the stuff that we're talking about was popping. Like it looked like it was 60 frames per second somehow. It looked very good.
It did look pretty good. Even when I was watching it in the corner of my phone while even almost getting hit by a car in the dark.
You're still like, wow, this is popping.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before on the show. When things are filmed on film, it's much easier for them to upscale them. And for certain series of movies like Friday the 13th, they are lucky enough to be popular enough amongst horror fans, which is a massive, you wouldn't even call it a niche. It's just a massive audience of people. Things like the Friday the 13th movies, no matter how terrible you are in the series, those fans want the upscaled versions, and they exist. So you can just get your really crappy Jason just as easily as your really good Jason.
It looked better than the other ones, and I think I've watched most of them. I've rented all of these on Amazon, so I'm in the hole now for like $30.
You should have just bought the 8-pack or whatever.
Right? I think I might for the rest of them.
Oh, I'm invoicing you for
yeah, you can invoice me for this appearance too. What's your appearance fee? Because I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to razz you.
Like, hey, can you swap out the movie that you're mentally preparing for this other movie that is much worse and watch it within the next 14 hours? Please.
14 hours. I can almost guarantee that Halloween 5 is going to be better, and I don't really like the Halloween movies that much. I find them to be kind of boring. But
I mean, Halloween 5 is also.
Oh, for fuck's sakes! Seed of Chucky was really good, and I'm really have high hopes for Nightmare on Elm Street as well.
Man, no matter the Chucky, there is a certain level of quality that Chucky always reaches, and it doesn't fall below that. These movies dip and they go down deep sometimes. The Freddy movies, the Jason movies, and the Halloween movies.
I've seen Freddy versus Jason.
That movie's fine.
That movie is fun, at least.
I saw it when it came out, and I remember liking it.
Mm-hmm.
But in a technically Friday the 13th part 11 and Freddy Krueger part 9 or 10, right?
It's I believe 10.
Yeah, it's like both. If we move on to, it cuts to him jarringly grown up now in the back of a, I guess, police car or a insane asylum wagon,
transport van.
I just
let's be real.
Yeah.
It was a little bus with chicken wire to make it look like a transport.
Like a prison vehicle. Yeah.
I should have known what we were in for when the guy was reading a porn mag that they hold on for a little bit too long. Did you notice that?
I mean, I noticed, and I've seen this movie more than once. My brain refuses to store any of it except for the lady saying dildo and stuff like
that. Was the part where I wasn't sure if I was watching the right movie. Yeah. And I messaged Steven and was like, okay, there's a guy in a raincoat and now they're in a car. Am I watching the right movie?
And I was like, you are, yes. And then you're immediately like, hold on, does this take place in an insane asylum? And I was like, no, it doesn't. You're like, thank God.
Thank God. Yeah. I couldn't have. I barely handled this one.
Yeah. I was watching this thinking of you, Noel, going, I fucked up. I fucked our friendship up by making them watch this.
You gave it to me. Do you want a spoiler now?
Fuck me up with a spoiler.
I liked this movie.
Oh my God. Steve messages me and goes, I feel bad for putting Noel through this.
Okay.
They're probably going to hate it, but what if they like it?
I did say, but maybe they'll love it. Who knows?
Okay. So I don't like horror. I just don't. And when I agreed to do the grimoire, I picked the one that I thought would be the most Noel friendly and interesting one. Mm-hmm. And so there was thought put into that when I picked it originally. I don't like horror slashers. I just don't like them. So I was already really braced, and I had less than 24 hours plus actual work time in my life to try and watch this movie. So I was like, oh, this is gonna suck. And I think I was in such a mood. I felt that I was like, this isn't too bad. And then watching it in like 10-minute intervals, it's like watching TikTok videos. So that was really easy to absorb. And then it's basically like the story only happens in 10-minute intervals anyway. So I'd like watch and be like, okay, another person died. Okay, I'm gonna go back to doing the thing, and then I watch, and then 10 minutes, another person died. Okay, and then back and forth.
This movie
and
is very much like you can see the cuts very clearly.
Yeah.
Like now
Yeah,
this
like-
little miniature story happening in this.
There's like no
large
continuity
sequence of
whatsoever. There's no overarching storyline.
Just cuts to
like,
some people a couple times that are just doing stuff, and you're like, oh, these people are gonna die because why are they in this movie?
And
Yeah.
the housekeeping of the movie is like presented in like tiny little snippets of dialogue that if you're not paying attention, you'll be like, wait, what? Hold on. And it's like, okay, you stay here, gotta go. I'm gonna go look for the people who are missing. I'm like, who's
It's such a
missing? them?
good. It felt like I was watching a movie that was specifically made for a drive-in theater to take a date to or to go with your buddies on the weekend.
yes.
And the thing that I really love about that is the fact that like you can just get to the end of a sequence. See, the other Friday the 13th movies have this problem with pacing where for like half the movie, it's just teens doing teen stuff before Jason even appears. Like, especially like the second movie, there's just these long scenes of just kids like swimming around, being like, haha, we're swimming. And they're not going to die. It's just setting up that they're at a camp. But in this, we can get rid of all that. It's Jason doesn't actually show his face until like an hour and 10 minutes
I
in.
feel like you're complaining about the other movies setting up characters and showing us who the characters are.
I kind of
Okay.
am.
Wait, hold on.
I'm trying to find a shining light for this thing.
You're like,
Yeah,
I
I
like
need-
that they don't explain who anyone is or their
No, but
personalities.
in Friday the 13th part 1 and 2, there's those fucking boring scenes of them just like going for a swim. That doesn't
See-
they're not doing dialogue. They're just swimming.
right.
I actually
Sorry.
did like that we didn't get any character growth or anything, because if you have to watch this movie in less than 24 hours for a podcast, you're fine.
Yeah.
Like,
If you
like-
look at the people
you're like,
in this movie, you're like, I know exactly who that
perfect.
person is based on the
Yeah.
stereotype they're representing.
Which
yeah,
is
and on the
horrible.
X-ray, I was like, "Oh, what's this person been in? This movie? Oh, what's this person been in? This movie?"
Ah,
It was like 2 other movies. Someone was in an Indiana Jones. Okay, but when I say I love this movie or liked this movie or whatever it was that I said, it's just. But sometimes when you're watching a bad movie, it's like I feel like I'm dying because like put me out of my misery, please kill me, like the Saving Private Ryan, leave me, or whatever the hell like
certain, yeah.
analogy you want to use. But this one, it's just there.
Yeah, and it's not completely altogether unenjoyable at parts. Like you're
Yeah.
enjoying
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
It's not unwatchable, and just when you think it might be, someone else dies, and then you move on to another.
Exactly.
scene.
Well,
And
that is basically the encapsulation of the Friday the 13th movie series as a whole. That's basically what it is. The Freddy movies have a little bit more going on in terms of story. The Chucky movies are all about Chucky and Chucky as a character, and the
and
Myers
his bride.
and his bride
And his seed,
Yeah,
his curse.
and then the Mike Myers movies are they're about the town more or less. I mean, we're now moving into some weird territory with those movies as we go on, but until this point, it's about the town and how they deal with this maniac. But the Friday movies have always just been about like creative kills and like let's show off the special effects, which is why this movie is so much more disappointing to me than the other ones, because there is almost no creativity going into
Yeah, it's
how
cheesy as
people are being
fuck.
killed. Yeah.
The point the movie's making too, if there is one, is that like we said,
Is that
spoilers.
cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug, but the copycat killer is doing like even more so of a best of Jason's kills than in the previous 2, which also kind of felt like he was doing a little bit. He's doing some ingenuity, but then we would get a classic kill. But in this one, it's the best of. And to your point, Noel, the fact that nothing's really going on and we're just moving from scene to scene, literally to get from him in the car to meeting Reggie, Tommy meets Pam, the kids see him arrive, we kind of meet Matthew, he's at a place called Pinehurst, and
Who's Matthew?
Matthew is the counselor guy.
Oh, I
Oh,
don't know
doctor.
anyone's name.
We
Yeah.
assume
Even
Tommy's
though we're watching the
had a rough
X-ray.
go we assume Tommy's had a rough go because of him interacting with Jason, and then we get Chekhov's fucking knife. He's like, I have a knife.
I have a knife.
Chekhov's mask too, because he puts on that mask to scare the kid.
Yeah.
And then what was it? They did something else in order.
That's
to,
also
I don't remember
the fourth movie. He makes all these masks and stuff. That's his thing.
Oh,
he's supposed to be a little Tom Savini, right? Like he's Tom Savini is the special effects artist who worked on the first and the fourth movie, and they named him Tommy after Tom Savini, and like sort of took mannerisms and put them into this character. And he literally kills Jason Voorhees by like putting makeup on and shaving his head and like making himself look like a monster before killing him. So like there's all these things they set up in the fourth movie that are interesting about Tommy Jarvis, and none of that comes through in this movie except for the mask stuff, where he still has the masks that he made in the previous film in his bag, and they're like his only cherished elements, I guess.
Did you know that the guy who played the Jason copycat, whatever his name was, wasn't credited? Because it was the stuntman, and the people who were credited were the actor who played the other guy.
I did not know that, but I do know that guy.
I found it out in the
X-ray. I know that guy was also very displeased with the movie. While he was making it, he was like, "This is going to be great," and when it came out, he's like, "This is the worst thing that has ever happened on screen. I hate it." I mean, we've moved on, but I did want to mention one thing that we've always talked about with these movies before we go too far past it. The opening credits, once again, are just boring white text on a black background. And it's like, can you please learn from your colleagues in the genre, the Freddy movies, the Chucky movies, even the Halloween movies? They have something interesting going on in their opening credits. And it's like the Friday series is just stuck to this cheap, boring white on black
and they're
thing.
so long.
That's the thing that's rough about it, is that it's so long. And we did get the mask explosion, or the mask like blows up the screen.
The music was killing me in those opening titles.
So I love the Jason music, and
it was just like it was like having tinnitus,
right?
Only I don't have it.
It was like artificial tinnitus.
I got to experience what that feels like. It just felt like it was shooting through my brain, just like.
Yep. Okay. So I do have tinnitus. So
enjoy that noise.
It doesn't bother me at all. Yeah.
I Twitch stream or boom guy. Let me just.
Oh my god! You just killed everybody watching.
Yeah. Hey, boom guy!
Just fell to 0 viewers because they all have tinnitus now.
Now you know how it felt.
Well,
we got the mask explosion,
sorry,
which started in the second movie, I think, and we then cut back to Tommy in the car, and Tommy has the thickest 5 o'clock shadow I've ever seen a teenager have, where you're like, oh no, this is a 28-year-old man.
Yeah, he's 28.
Yeah, pretending to be a teenager.
Is he the guy from Troll 2 who's like, oh no? Because he's not, but he looks
like him.
He looks so much like him. He is this guy from other stuff. He looks so fucking familiar to me, but it might just be that I've seen a clip from this movie, possibly, or I think going forward.
He worked all the way up until 2019. So
yeah, is he in anything of note? What's his name?
His name is.
What's his address?
His name is John Shepard.
Isn't that the name of the guy from Mass Effect?
It is. You can change his
Shepard
name. You can change his name in Mass Effect.
Uncommon name, just so we know.
I
know a real life one too.
Yeah, that's the point of the name in Mass Effect, is that it would be like one of the most common names for a person to have. You can also, mine was named Steven Shepard, and he didn't look like the supermodel that they cast to play him. Because why would I do that when I can make my own?
You are a supermodel.
Supermodel.
Tommy. Oh wait, then we get our first perv, the orderly from the mental institution that he's being delivered from, is immediately says pervy things and is reading a pornographic magazine, which I guess is sort of a staple of the series. But up until this point, I guess the doctor in the last movie was real pervy. Remember when he's like trying to have sex like in a room with a corpse in it, and you're like,
there's an actual pervert in this movie that has like no fucking, just a red herring The
You're
guy,
talking
the
about-
old
You're talking
man.
about like the hobo or whatever, like the drifter.
He
the-
shows up, he's dirty, he asks for
Yeah.
odd jobs, then watches two teenagers bang in the woods, and that's his whole story arc.
But
Gets
the thing
stabbed
is,
in
you
the
call him
back.
a pervert. He sees them having sex and then leaves. He's not like
He licks his lips. He goes,
okay, all right, but it's
Was
a
he
porno.
doing it in like a contemplative way of like, that's interesting?
Yeah,
and
maybe
then
I should get
turn
out of here.
around?
Or maybe it's
No,
just
he
a dry
was-
summer.
He
What
was
would you
fully-
hang on? Thought experiment. What would you do
No.
if you walked in on two teens borking?
Porking. Oh my god. Did you know that Porky's 3 came out the same summer as this? Porky's Revenge or whatever it's called.
Did you know that I was born 1 month and 4 days after this movie came out?
Oh my god.
Isn't Porky's
Jason
made by
talks about his
Canadian?
birth so often in this show. It's crazy.
It's a good thing my next month is a whole birth month.
So we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but I don't really mind because we can kind of just jump all over the place.
I
for
got
this.
to Reggie. I'm at Reggie in my notes. I took less notes because everybody's always complaining about how long the
I know,
show
but
is.
we got to talk about the opening credits, man. We've talked about them for every other Jason episode.
It's
We have to
true.
talk about.
I did have them in my notes. I glossed over them.
All right, well, let's talk about Reggie the Reckless then.
Reggie the Reckless fucking rules. First of all,
He does kind of rule. I was hoping that it would be sort of a bait and switch or a red herring where he says that he's not one of the patients there. And I was kind of hoping maybe he was secretly a patient there that would, later you would learn more about this character and he'd become more interesting. But
he's
alas,
also
no,
he's
that did not
also
happen.
like kind of final girl, but Pam obviously is final girl. But also he's like, I don't know.
He kills Jason.
He's that kid character. He reminds me of the kid from Chucky 3 a little bit, who like knows the rules of the movie, like knows the rules of the universe a little bit, because he immediately, like, spoilers, but he gets that plow. It's like has the foresight to just slam a plow into Jason.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, how does he know how to operate this backhoe? Like, that's crazy.
Because he knows the rules of the universe.
It's true. He read the manual for the universe.
Or it's like the Last Action Hero.
Mhm.
He knows the rules of the universe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was actually just a kid who found a magical ticket that took him into a Jason movie. Oh, remember we were talking about the movies, and Jason was in that movie in the newspaper. Maybe Reggie was in the theater when the ticket got ripped, and he accidentally went into this movie.
Sorry, Jason, you were saying the copycat murders. So at the end, when skipping all the way to the end, when the guy has like the newspaper clippings, and like he was just doing copycats based on the newspaper clippings. The top one is about Jason, and then the bottom ones are identical newspaper clippings that have nothing to do with anything. They just like photograph.
They're just like,
Because they only had enough money to make one actual Jason related.
one of them is a Calvin and Hobbes comic.
One's a Foxtrot. It's just all comics all the way down. If this was a Mel Brooks movie or like a Naked Gun movie, that would be a gag in one of those. If they had made Scary Movie in 1987, boom,
Yeah.
that's a joke.
He got a lifetime Oscar thing at the Governor Awards. Mel Brooks.
Leslie Nielsen? Oh, Mel
Mel
Brooks.
Brooks.
I'd hope so. He should
Yeah,
get an
this
Oscar.
year.
Hey, Google, did Mel Brooks have an Oscar?
You just got one.
He's got the honorary one.
Oh, he won for the producers in the 60s. Hey, Google, stop.
Okay.
Could you hear that? Hey, Google, stop.
Yeah, we can hear like a disembodied voice.
Nice.
Giving you the answers to all your questions.
See, when I was doing the show Blossom Buddies, I don't know if you remember the little show called Blossom Buddies. Google Home was sort of a guest or a co-host on that show. It was pretty funny. And I do have one here in this room. So
why'd you ask me to come on? You could just have a third guest.
actually, that's not a bad idea.
Hey Siri.
No, I'm have me on the show. Woo, woo, woo. Again, I'm sorry, subwoofer guy.
Subwoofer.
Oh, Reggie the Reckless. Back on track.
The new, remember when we used to do Rails, back on the Rails?
Rails, yeah.
Rails.
So,
Reggie the Reckless immediately pranks Tommy with a spider.
Yeah, so this kind of shows that he is sort of like a little Tommy himself, right? Like Tommy's whole thing was that he liked to scare people and he liked to make monster masks and be like creepy and kooky, which is fun. And this kid is sort of taking up the mantle. And you know, it is disappointing when you set up such a clear connection between two characters and there's already backstory there to work with, and then them just not utilizing it at all. So you're kind of frustrated as somebody who has invested time in 4 movies, and you're like, now you have a character that's carrying on from one to the next, and this should be the next part of the story with Tommy, and they just really don't do it. It's like they had a tool there that could have improved this as an actual film, but instead they decided to give the movie to a pornographer who just decided to make it a bunch of schlock.
So the pornographer, they told him to do 2 things: kill someone every 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure that Tommy turns into Jason
by the end.
But then the people rioted and wanted Jason back.
Yeah.
So they were like, yeah, screw you, Tommy.
That's the same thing that happened with Halloween 3. Everybody felt like they were being tricked, right? Like they went to go see a movie that they thought Michael Myers was going to be in, and he was not in it at all, and everybody lost their minds.
That's not true. In the universe of Halloween 3, the Halloween movie exists, and Michael Myers is shown on a television.
Yes. So he's not in the movie. He's in a movie in the movie. That's not being in the movie.
I think that is...
We've had this discussion on the show during that episode.
But I like that because that is the equivalent of like nowadays when they make when in like some MCU spinoff, somebody says Thor.
No, what it's like is the equivalent to me saying "Don't touch me," and then you going, "I'm not touching you," and hovering your finger right near my face.
That's what the equivalent is being told that you're going to go see a movie, and then it's Madam Web, where you think that you're going to see a bunch of girls becoming like Spider-Man types and having powers, and then it doesn't happen in the movie.
Right. I didn't see the movie, so
I haven't seen it yet.
I can't say anything. But,
did you go see it in theaters?
I will be.
I like that we know everything about Madam Web, and none of us have seen it. We just know the memes.
I didn't know. I don't know nothing.
I know. I read up on it because I wanted to know if it was being like serial maligned, or whether it was just the internet hates women. So I wanted to do some hard research on it.
I think it's like if the internet didn't hate women, it's still a bad movie. But
I think it's probably bit of both, yeah.
I am going to go see it. I have a free ticket that I need to spend. I think it's still in theaters. I'm going to have a wonderful time, and I'll report back.
Okay. Very good. That's Sydney Sweeney. She's going places, I think.
With her boobs?
Boobs. I saw a headline that was like, Sydney Sweeney's boobs are ending wokeness.
Yeah, that was the Beaverton.
Oh, what's shit.
Oh my god.
What a Fern Gully moment. What a Fern Gully moment we just had here on the show. I gave somebody shit literally today on Facebook for their post being rife with misinformation. And I just quoted a Beaverton article. At any rate, Tommy
meets Reggie. They're the same. They're the same.
That fucks the nerd, the punk chick, the prep, the fat guy. The gang is all here. Even the dirty nerds. They're there.
Dirty nerds.
So many stereotypes. And the badass. He's there as well.
I mean, yeah. Everyone's there. All of the characters you can ever think of from a horror movie are there in some form and capacity. But we get to meet the best character in just a moment when you hear a police car roll up, followed by a dirt bike rolling up. The sheriff is there to investigate because the local, what does I say? The local trashy dirt-covered woman shows up and calls everyone a pervert, then threatens to shoot everyone and ends with a bomb threat as she pulls off on her dirt bike piloted by her son. That is basically the scene. She is loud and she is funny and she says very funny things. And her son is, I don't know what's going on with him. I guess he's just supposed to be stupid. That's the gag. Like he's like a cartoon character level stupid.
Yeah. He's
you're muted.
He's got some. You're muted.
5 years of pandemic, and I still can't figure out how to freaking unmute myself.
Yeah, but you've changed your name like 6 times to the funniest shit.
Yeah. Also, you don't have to mute everything when you remove yourself from the stage. It'll automatically do it. So you
What
just
do you
click.
mean? Okay, you know what? Maybe I'll figure that out later.
Okay.
Sorry. I took it as him being inbred because they're like backwoods, like
I think that was the implication. Yeah.
that's. And then when she swore, I was like, "Oh, we're doing this in this movie, all right." And it felt so out of place.
It's like they decided to throw every trope. I swear the guy was like, I think I saw a Jason movie, but he actually saw The Hills Have Eyes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Nightmare on Elm Street. And then he's like, but that's the one with the hockey mask guy, right? So he didn't do any research, and he just threw a bunch of the tropes from all of these movie series together into this one movie. And this is what you end up with, is like a smoothie, but it's full of like rocks and shit that you didn't want in there, twigs.
Hello, the button machine. Okay, you took care of it. Actually, that's a good way to do that. We're trying out some new stuff. I love this. I love the ability to be able to put the comments on screen. It's great. What happens if I do both? Oh, just shows it. Sorry, I got sidetracked.
I love that you decided to talk about it for some reason. Let's go. Let's keep moving. Jason,
Okay, it's a muddy pile of sticks, as you said.
So we're talking about this family, and Noel has theorized that he's supposed to be inbred, but there is no father around, so you can't really confirm or deny that. It's just sort of a trope that I think these people thought would be funny to throw into a movie, right? He has that sub-level intelligence that is like cartoonish to the point that he acts like a child kind of thing, right? Like a Looney Tune style character being like, oh, I'm dumb, I'm so stupid.
Like Foghorn Leghorn is actually what I was thinking.
Okay, Foghorn Leghorn
He's the most intelligent Looney Tune.
Super
Yeah, but-
intelligent. No, he's like the abominable snowman who's like, I love you and hug you and call you George.
Yeah. Jason, take it back. Take it back immediately.
Foghorn Leghorn is more like, boy, I said, boy, you got to stand up on your own 2 feet. While he's pushing him down. Nice kid, not too
Now,
good.
I'm not a fancy city lawyer, but yeah, like that's kind of...
Yeah, do the voices.
Do the voices, monkey. No, but that's all in good fun. The thing that I love about the character of Junior is that he gets so riled up so quickly. It makes him the perfect foil or the perfect like bad guy, like sub boss, mini boss kind of like weirdo.
But he feels at a place in this movie, right? He feels like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre character.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel like a character that should be even in this area of the country. It's like, why is this family existing in the same region as where all of these other movies took place? Because this is supposed to be close to Crystal Lake, which, by the way, why would you send Tommy Jarvis to a retreat that's right next to the lake where his family was murdered and he murdered a man and saw a bunch of teenagers get killed? Doesn't seem wise, but I don't know, maybe he requested it, who knows.
It's that therapy where you're immersed.
Yeah, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take you back to the scene of the crime.
I almost said conversion therapy, and I was like, that's not right.
Wrong one. I thought that the stuttering guy was going to be gay because he kind of seemed a little bit queer coded, and then it just was like, no, that's just how that guy thinks stuttering people talk.
Yeah,
slightly effeminately.
He's a nerd, so he stutters in this universe of tropes.
Well, I think that it's supposed to be that he went through some sort of trauma, and that's why he stutters. Like,
Yeah.
He doesn't stutter because he's a nerd. How
I
dare
took
you.
it that like basically all the characters were exactly the same. It's like you had to have like a boy band, the blonde one, the redhead, the one with the like, just to differentiate them. You have a stutter.
Yeah. So
that's character development in this movie. Like you're one thing, the
You
punk
dance.
likes to dance to shitty. She likes to do the robot to shitty fucking pop.
she was
music.
doing all right though. That was some pretty all right pop.
That was pop and locking. Yeah.
But I did write in my notes that dance deserves death, and it was brought swiftly. But I
Not
didn't say
swiftly enough.
Yeah.
They let her dance much longer
long
than
time.
any of us needed to watch her dance.
I think
I guess-
that they had one title track in this movie. That one song that's playing actually had lyrics. I think they needed to like get their money's worth and play like the whole song.
In the X-ray, when you
Yes.
hit music, the only thing that comes up is that one song.
His
Eyes, I think it's called.
I sent Steve a voice memo of me singing the chorus because I thought it was so goofy and funny, but I unironically like that genre of music, like that weird, like shitty new wave, but not the main new wave bands. And I'm going to listen to that song in the future for sure because it's not a bad tune. I like that like diggy 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 kind of noise, kind of sound, you know.
So, speaking of,
Sorry, does this only happen when I'm on the show where we're just bouncing around? I'm so sorry. Why
It
don't I
doesn't.
just mute myself?
no, it doesn't.
No.
It happens every episode. So this is
You
when
watch bad movies.
that's true. We don't
Hey,
always
it
watch
seems
bad
like you should have been here for like a month.
movies. Yeah.
I cried, I laughed, I cried again.
I have asked to be on the show as often as you like, so it's your fault that I wasn't on them.
That's why I knew you'd be cool with coming on in short notice. So.
I know. Oh, I know.
We're too smart for each other. That's the problem. We're both outwitting, outlasting, outplaying each other constantly. Survivor reference.
And
So-
I'm a fool. So
All the sounds.
So we finally get to our chance to meet these characters, not just visually, because
The backyard scene, as I call it.
this is when the movie also decides you don't really need to know these characters. You already know who they are based on how they look, just like in real life. That's how all encounters are. So what happens? The overweight character walks out and he's got chocolate all over his face and he's eating a chocolate bar, and you're like, okay, I can see how the movie's
The
going.
chocolate
Chocolate.
changes.
Yeah, it does.
The whole time. That's what.
It's because he kept licking it off. And then they're like, stop licking the chocolate off. He's like, it tastes so good.
The way I perceived it is the chocolate, there's more chocolate every time they showed him.
It would have been
Until
funny
just-
if it just continued to
It just
Yeah.
changed sides. Yeah. But the actual reason is that this movie is bad and they did one take for everything and then didn't bother.
Of course, the movie is bad. That is the answer to every single thing that we'll ever question throughout this movie. Is the answer is that the movie is bad, but it's not altogether unenjoyable. And this scene in particular is an example of why, because it's so batshit crazy that it just doesn't care enough about anything to take time. So like we get to meet these characters. Joey, he goes up and he's being so nice. He's not being. I mean, he's being slightly annoying. I can get it, and I can understand if a person was like this every day, all
He
day.
just wants to be helpful.
He just wants to help. He's being
I
very
want to help
nice.
doing laundry. They never let me do laundry.
I'm
Can
really
I
good
help
at
you?
doing
I don't know
laundry.
how to chop wood, but like I'd like to help.
Also, he's religious, I guess, because he's wearing a crucifix around his neck, and it's like
I
so.
didn't clock that.
It's so prominent. It's like he's wearing this like low cut T-shirt, and he has this crucifix that's just affixed. It's almost like they glued it to his chest.
Do you think that it was actually so in Lord of the Flies, where the kid that gets sacrificed at the end is supposed to be the Jesus character, and like the first person, the sacrificial lamb, is in some like fancy literature, usually like an avatar of like a holier person, or that's what they're supposed to. Do you think that that's what they were thinking in this one? They were like, the first death
yeah.
has to be in the innocent.
I think that the pornographer Danny Steinmann was definitely thinking that when he decided to film this shot. He was like, it's going to be real poetic if we put this crucifix on this kid. He is like the son of God. He's meant to live, but we kill him first. And you know what? Now that I say it out loud, I think that maybe that could be true. Is that he was going to be like, this is the kid that you think is going to live, and we're going to kill him right away, and we're not even going to kill him via the serial killer. We're going to kill him, but at the same
That's
time,
what I wanna-
Always kill the innocent first.
That's what I want to say about this, that not only does this have some depth to it because of what you guys just discussed, this has the most shocking, out of place, like moment in the whole movie that I thought this movie was going to be completely different and crazy and all over the place, and not all over the place, but like twisty and turny. Like I was like, oh, or is this setting us up for some sort of like next level horror idea, like an M. Night Shyamalan thing? Nope. We get this awesome scene of him antagonizing the badass who's introduced in this scene, right? Chopping wood so hard he can't get through this log, and he just he's like, gee George, you want to go and maybe we eat some chocolate together later, and maybe we can hang out, and don't be like that, I want to chop wood with you, show me how to chop wood. And this guy's just getting angrier and angrier to the point that he fucking chops him to bits. He chops him to bits.
Yeah,
And he's just a guy.
He's just a guy, but also, this could have been their setup for like, oh, maybe he ran off into the woods, and then you've got your red herring, right? This guy.
That's what I thought for like a little bit.
I know, but apparently they arrested him. Like I thought.
Yeah, but I mean, they cremated Jason, and he's back.
That's true, but
in fact, they cremated Jason, but then still took him out of a hole. No, but he's back in the next one. You know what? Carry on.
Yeah, this movie. I feel like they don't think this movie is canonical, but because Tommy Jarvis in the next movie, totally a full, well-rounded, filled-out character who does not talk the entire time. Go ahead.
If we're talking in kind of biblical terms, would you say that this one's apocryphal?
Oh my god, the soundtrack to the movie just started playing.
Oh my god, the movie just started playing.
I don't know if I would go that far, but you know what? If you want to call it that, I'm not going to argue with you.
The Apocrypha has a dragon in it. Holy dragons, man.
Maybe Vic is the dragon. Is that the name of the character? I don't remember. I can't remember what his
either.
Vic is the X-Man.
But to your point, Jason, it was very weird. I was like, what are we? I thought this was a Jason movie where other people killed things, not this random guy we just met killing this other random guy we just met.
That's where I get the whole thing that it feels like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, because everything feels like wrong, dreamlike. Like when you watch the Nightmare on Elm Street series, the whole time you're wondering what is dream, what is not dream. Are they in the dream world now? And this had that because Tommy Jarvis, I don't think he's seen a vision of Jason yet. I think that's coming up very soon. But when you see that Tommy Jarvis sees Jason in his in mirrors and hallucinates him, this fits into that whole is Tommy just watching this not happen out his window? You know what I mean? Is he seeing this happen? But it's not. Obviously, it's not. But up to this point, I hadn't seen this movie before. So I think that I thought that they were throwing us these curveballs. I thought that it was going to be this grander.
I think that was the intent.
Film.
That is definitely the intent of the movie, but the movie is so inept at even completing the things that they're trying to do in order for you to achieve what you were looking for, which is some sort of satisfaction from the things that they're feeding you. It's like the movie forgets they've set these things up partway through the movie. They're like, okay, we've set it up all this stuff where Tommy doesn't quite know if he can trust his own eyes and ears because he's clearly having to take medication to subdue these auditory hallucinations. He's having visual hallucinations in the mirror. But now we're going to start to have real murders happen, and we're never going to show Jason when he's murdering people. So maybe the audience will start to think that Tommy is the murderer, and then Tommy will start to think that Tommy's the murderer, and then Tommy starts to see Jason, but he knows Jason's dead, and it can't possibly be Jason. And then we're also going to throw 10 other characters into the movie that could also possibly be the murderer. We're going to have a drifter. We're going to focus on the ambulance driver. Every time he's there, he's going to look a little bit crazed, and we're going to have a musical sting. We're going to have the murderer Vic get arrested. They could have had him break out of jail or something.
You know the character Stefan from Saturday Night Live, played by Bill Hader? This movie has everything. It's got twists. It's got turns.
Today's hottest new club.
Yeah. It's got that thing of when, you think it's the one person's the killer, but then it's actually a copycat killer.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So on the outhouse, what's the name of the chocolate boy? Anyway,
Joey.
It says Joey was here on the back of the outhouse. Like his full name, Joey, whatever, was here. Right. And they planted it there so that you thought that maybe he had not died and was actually the killer as well.
Who would? I mean,
even
at
though
that
when
point,
the ambulance,
too many people.
When the ambulance drivers show up, the one ambulance driver is they're like, the police officer's like, don't look at that. It's a mess. Just take it out of here. And the one ambulance driver goes, pulls the blanket back, and it shows like a hacked up body with a dismembered arm on top of the body. Like it was all just sort of like pushed together like so much meat. And that was when I was like, that's fucking weird too.
Well, the movie also, like, after Vic murders Joey, this is when, if you are paying attention, I suppose that they do leave enough breadcrumbs for you as an audience member to solve it before you get to the end. But it's also, there's too much going on, while at the same time not enough going on for you to be able to solidify any kind of hypothesis you might have toward the end or any theory, right? So you're just like, what is this?
Well, that's why his mask is blue.
Yeah.
So that you know it's not him.
He's got the things, and Jason has the
Right.
double horn.
He just read about Voorhees in the newspaper, and it was like he has a hockey mask, so he just went to the hardware store. And
It's
got
black and
a
white. The newspaper would be black and white. So how would he know what color it is?
Right.
That's a good point.
So yeah, he got the wrong mask. Idiot.
Nerd.
Yeah, what a nerd. He's in Jason cosplay, and he really fucked up the markings on the mask. They're going the wrong direction, and they're blue.
My whole thing with when they finally show Jason later in the movie, and he's making eye contact with people, where canonically one of Jason's eyes is just out, and that was distressing to me, because I was like, that was another moment. I mean, this is later, we'll get to it, but that was distressing to me, because I was like, what is happening? How is this a copycat killer, but also he's got like the weird stretch marks on the back of his head, like he's clearly got the weird bald head, but he keeps making eye contact with people and they show his eyes.
That's the thing that is the most frustrating to me at the very end of the movie. I'm not sure how you guys feel about it, but the man who plays Jason in this movie, the father of murdered Joey, as we find out later.
What was his name?
Like Mel?
Roy. His name is Roy. Yeah.
Ugh.
They say it a lot in the movie. Like even the moment where like the sheriff is like talking to himself into the forest line or whatever, and then Roy is there and he's like, "What's that, Sheriff?" And he's like, "What?" And he's like, "I thought you were talking to me, Sheriff. Me, Roy the ambulance driver." And then he's like, "Nothing. No, don't worry about it, Roy. I wasn't talking to you, Roy. All right, Roy, I gotta go, Roy."
All right, Roy, not the killer, also the killer.
I should have
maybe
remembered
the killer,
his
Roy?
name, because in the X-ray it said, in this scene Roy is doing this, in this scene Jason is doing this, so they like say which one it is depending on whether it's the dream sequence or not.
That's like when you're watching a movie and you get spoiled by the subtitles.
Yeah,
right, where it's
which
like
is
that happens to me all the time. But the thing that I wanted to get to was that he has like the most intense blue eyes. Like Roy has like these crazy blue eyes. And every time you see Jason at the end of the movie, because you don't see Jason murder anybody, you don't really see him walking around with a mask until Reggie and Pam are trying to escape. It's the first time you kind of fully see Jason outside of the dream sequences that what's his name? Tommy Jarvis is happening. And when Jason is looking at everybody, he has the crazy blue eyes. And it was so annoying at the end of the movie when Jason falls on this bed of spikes and it zooms in on his face, and it's Roy's face with his fucking eyes closed. And it's like, you can't really tell who he is, because his two most sort of like discerning and like interesting and memorable characteristics are his black hair, curly hair, and his extremely blue eyes, and his hair is covered and his eyes are shut. And like, I could imagine people being like, "Who the fuck is that?" Like when like,
I wouldn't have known if the X-ray hadn't told me.
Exactly. I can imagine a bunch of people in the theater seeing the face for the first time and being like, "Who is that? Like, who is that supposed to be?"
I had a moment where I was like, "That's the ambulance driver." I should have known, because honestly,
did you really
listen? When they were throwing so many possibilities at us that it kind of got marred throughout the movie. But that scene at this part during the backyard bit, when he's acting all weird, like he's looking at his own son maimed.
There are definitely enough, like I said, breadcrumb moments for you to figure out that it is Roy.
I was going, there's no fucking way that's going to be Jason in this movie. There's no fucking way. This movie isn't smart enough already to do anything like that. lo and behold,
And
I
yes,
guess it's
Turns out smartest
turns
Jason
out
movie ever
M
made.
Night Shyamalan twist, man.
Yeah. M. Night was on set that day, and he said,
was,
"You know, it
as
would be
a-
a really great twist." And
as
people are
a
like, "We don't know. People don't like
baby.
twists, and
Actually,
they never
he would've been
will."
like-
M. Night Shyamalan.
He probably would have been like 5 years old when this movie came out. I think he's only slightly older
he
than
patterned his entire career after
maybe
this.
10. Yeah. He saw this as a young man and was like, "That's how we're gonna do it.
Yeah,
We're
it
gonna
was
set
before
up some
people
shit."
used to say, "My mind is blown." He would say, "My mind is twisted, twisted my mind up."
Man,
Do you guys want to talk about the greasers? Because I
Yes.
thought this scene was excellent.
Yes.
I thought this sequence was so fucking funny and dumb, and funny and dumb.
So I did also want to mention, now that we've already revealed that the ambulance driver is the murderer, there's a lot of table setting at the beginning of this movie, front loaded, where there's enough fuel for the ambulance driver to
I'm a fanbulance of this movie.
essentially create a list of people that he's going to kill, and he does throughout the movie. There's a lot of people that no need to die, but these two motherfuckers are talking shit about the lunatic children that live in the lunatic home. And if Jason's nearby, he's like, "One of my sons was and then the one kid's like, "I think they should all be killed one by one."
I was
Well,
actually just going to bring that
when
up.
you were
We'll
saying
move past
table
that.
settings, there was actually too much table setting because she set the table with 2 more plates. One for Joey,
Right, yeah.
one for guy who killed. No,
Yeah.
not Joey.
Vic
Dead guy.
Dead
and
guy
guy
and
who-
murderer, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll call
So-
him cool guy and snack guy. The snack
that was
guy and
the
cool guy.
weirdest scene. I really want to know what the script looked like. Like the direction wasn't there. It was like, how could you set this 2 plate? I didn't know.
Yeah.
I'm 100%
Slam.
certain that
Let
the
us sit
script,
down and eat.
that the script used the R word all over it. The way that these characters' mental health issues were not treated with any sort of dignity.
I don't know, man. The movie came out in an era where they would have just said it. It wouldn't have been a big deal.
If I didn't know that this was a loony bin house, I would
Yeah.
not have known.
Okay.
Like I just
Well,
I
it's
just wouldn't have
technically
known.
not, right? It's a halfway house for people who are being moved from mental institutions to like their soft intro to society or whatever.
I would have thought that he's just going to a foster home. Like there
Right.
was no like real coding for like he has a stutter. So
Yeah. It doesn't seem like they don't really flesh out any of the characters. So I don't know
dances.
why they're there. She's obsessed. She's crazy for dancing.
But she is very much the stereotype of preppy or punk or
yeah, but
sex
that
pot
doesn't
couple,
make them crazy.
class clown.
That's the
it
point.
I don't
certainly
even-
does not.
they didn't even like register as like crazy to me. They just registered
Not at all.
more as like orphans, as you said. I think Joey says as much. He's like, "I'm an orphan, and we're all
Little orphan
orphans
Joey."
here."
Yeah.
Which brings me to my next point. The game Final Fantasy VIII had a very strong plot point.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
What happens when
Okay.
you have control of the fart sound? Final Fantasy.
proper
We're on
Final
Twitch,
Fantasy.
but now we're on YouTube and Facebook, so maybe I can dial back the video game reference.
I'll get like the potion sound effect for Final Fantasy, so everything you bring it up, it'll be like a blink or whatever the noise is that happens.
Okay.
Isn't that?
No,
I don't know what the noise is.
there is a sound actually. It's like a kind of like
Yeah, I can't do. My voice doesn't go that high. I'll get it for you. Until now, this will happen.
So I have a heart out at 10.
Jeez,
I thought you had harder at 10:30. Soft out at 10.
I think that the nonsense is pushing the time up.
Do you know
Yeah.
what? I'm all yours.
Yay!
Oh geez.
Take
Dun,
me.
dun, dun,
Dun, dun, dun.
That's the twist. I don't have a heart out.
Oh my god!
I think you said that so we wouldn't do nonsense, and now you're having fun, and now we do nonsense. So Pete leaves. Jason does a road flare to the mouth, and his buddy gets his throat slit. Doesn't really show it. Bad effect, which is crazy since they did such a good effect for the road flare to the mouth. That practical effect for the road flare into like the prosthetic head. Oh my god, a knife.
Yeah.
I'm in my kitchen.
What did you say, Jason? I was busy typing something that no one will ever see, I don't think.
No, I was just talking about how the scene with the greasers, they have their back and forth, and the fact that the kill with the knife isn't shown when he slits his throat just kind of shows him with the worst slit throat.
It just looks like painted, like nail polish or something on his neck.
The road flare to the mouth, they built a whole fucking prosthetic head, and it looked incredible. Like
Pretty
the
good,
head,
yeah.
like was lit up with the road flare. I'm fully not sure if it like the homeless, the man, the hobo isn't introduced yet.
Let's just call him a drifter.
The drifter.
I guess a hobo is a drifter. They drift around on trains, right? It's
Well,
not what
he's
a
a
hobo is.
hobo in the like Great Depression sense of like
Right.
he probably read the hobo signals on the thing and read
Hobo
it wrong.
signals. This place has pies. This place has poisons.
Right. And he was like, this place has slop. slop
This place-
slop for work.
Great
It has-
stew.
Yeah, great stew. Eat your fucking slop.
Eat your
But when she
slop, you
falls-
dildo.
When she falls in this, no, yeah, there's a scene where there's the stew and the stew keeps changing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that seems like one of the harder things to really keep the continuity on, so I can forgive it. But I do think that these two kids, like, you know, one of them essentially brings it out himself for saying some terrible shit about Joey's death. But also, when the other one comes back, you can really see the cocaine budget of this movie on screen at this point, because you're like, why is he so jacked up to start the car? It's so out of place that it's uncomfortable almost, I would say.
It's cringy as shit. Like
Yeah.
when he's like, "Get in the car. We're gonna start the car up. All right, it's not starting. Okay."
All right. You don't need to recreate it. Please don't. It's gonna
It's
make me
like that.
uncomfortable again.
And then it goes on for like a minute.
It's like the
and
perfect example of you shouldn't let every actor improv,
Yes.
because this is what you end up with.
No,
you know?
this was the script, guys.
It does that in the X-ray. It's like, this was in the script. Everything he's saying was.
You
in
may
the
think
script.
that this is improvised because it's so bad.
But this just in, it's not. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm gonna say maybe that actor had done at least 7 to 8 lines of cocaine when he was in the woods, but we can't be sure.
Also,
Allegedly.
why were greasers? Why were these guys greasers? Were greasers still a thing?
Well, this is when the-
greaser leather.
When did
leather
Grease
daddy
2
hat?
come out? Because
Probably
Like
Was
the
that-
90s?
or the year before.
and so if this is set in 1992, maybe they're just thinking that this is
Oh,
the 30-year cycle and that
This
Grease is going to come back because it was popular in the 70s, which was based on the 50s, and you know
That's why I
They
was
were right.
confused.
They
he's
were right.
thinking. He's thinking
It's like now where millennials get made fun of for wearing tight jeans, but
and
you know,
having side parts.
But then you look at and then you look at like the people who are popular now, and they're like, wait a minute, they're dressing like I dressed in
The
in
thin
20-
eyebrows
2001.
are back.
yeah, and big pants, big
Big
baggy
pants.
ass pants are back.
I
And
saw someone in
mid-rips.
Jinko jeans. I just couldn't.
It's
Or
going to be
like-
crazy in like another 10 years when the really drab clothing style from like the late like aughts come back and everybody just like looks normal again for a few years.
Everyone's dressed.
Well,
in
everyone
beige.
looks like grandpas. I mean, the row has. Okay, you know what? No, this is not a fashion podcast.
It
Yeah.
could be.
Could be. Do you think they got those looks at whatever the proto Party City was, though? The little like greaser hats and
Yeah, they got most of the effects for this movie from Halloween Town or whatever, Halloween Village, Spirit Halloween. Is that an Office reference? Because if it is, I love you. And if it isn't, I love you.
fashion show, fashion
Fashion
show,
show.
it's a
Fashion show
fashion.
lunch.
It says fashion.
Oh
show.
no!
Bastione.
Damn it!
It's Italiano.
It's Italiano.
Tommy finally sees Jason in a little weird moment. And then we get the breakfast club scene. after
Well, we have to
Jason
talk
has
about
his
the
little-
one important part of the scene, which is that Tommy Jarvis like basically just throws somebody through a table and starts beating the shit out of him, which is, you know, uncalled for, but you know, Tommy is traumatized, so he's going to react this way to.
Well, he's
anytime any
all
violence-
amped up from seeing Jason in the mirror, and we get one of those scenes where somebody needs to take their pills, which is always so dumb because they take their pill and
Yeah.
it's the whole thing is over. Like pills take like 20 minutes to work, right? Is that the
Not
general-
these magic pills.
Nope. It takes it. He's good.
It depends. My fast acting arthritis Tylenol is fast acting.
Is it
Hey.
within the swallow? You're on your way out.
Like
It's like
it
the
hits
placebo
tongue.
effect gets you,
Or-
and then
My melatonin. That's the only way that I can sleep because I'm criminally insane. Is under the. No, I'm alone. What
She's
happened?
getting sorry.
No,
Sorry,
no.
that's funny. I was trying to line it up with you saying I'm criminally insane.
That boy needs therapy.
Lock her up.
Yeah, the sublingual stuff. Like if you take sublingual medication, it does work really quickly because it goes into your like thing. It's like cocaine works really quickly because it's right on a membrane.
Right.
So if you put it right on a membrane, but most of these things are either in HCl, so hydrochloric acid little units, as a buffer in order for your body to absorb them, or they're absorbed in your stomach or your liver. Most of them aren't built like that.
And of course, to that same note, analgesics goes in your butt. And he was rapidly typing. I think StreamYard might be a detriment to the podcast.
This is great listening, by the way. Oh, movies are a audio medium, right? Because there was
Yes.
definitely whole sections of this movie that I watched while it was in my pocket because it was still, I thought I'd like turned it off, but all I had done was like minimize it while I was like, I can't watch it while I'm like almost getting hit by a car. So I'd put it in my pocket so I could pay attention, but then it was still playing in my ears.
Oh, that's so good.
I almost got hit by a car.
I know one fan of the show. We play that game, the fan guessing game at the beginning. I think maybe we should be showing what I show because they had assumed that that would be what is shown, but it's not. I just read out some stuff, which is conducive to audio. But to your point, analgesics go in the butt. Breakfast with Stereotype Squad. You don't set a place for a dead
Breakfast
person.
with anal Jesus. So we got to talk about the grandpa. I think his name is George.
Well, I just wanted to point out that you're right, Steve. Tommy Jarvis, attitude adjusts, the class clown guy through a fucking table.
You know what though? I was really happy when he did that because the class clown guy, he's like one of those, like Ken doll, handsome, acting like a dickhead. Everybody's laughing at what he did, even though it's not funny at all. Like it's just like the
class clown.
No thought
mentality.
put behind this joke.
That was the
Stupid.
thing that stressed me out the most in this entire movie was him being like, it's a joke, like scaring a poor boy who's only been there for 30 minutes.
I think that's called gaslighting.
Moida. Is
Whatever.
it?
When you do some horrible shit to somebody and say it's just a joke.
No, that's not gaslighting.
I think it's an element of gas. I think it could be considered a gaslight.
People use that so liberally these
Listen.
days.
Yeah.
Listen.
No, I don't think you're wrong.
You're
I really
crazy
don't
for
think you're wrong.
saying that to
Oh,
me.
I did. So I did.
Now that's gaslighting.
Now that's gaslighting.
No, you were gaslighting me when you were like pretending that you didn't ask me to watch a movie in 10 hours and that it was my fault.
I framed it different on Instagram, and then I had to get to you faster. Okay.
Oh, I did rewind a part of this movie. When
part?
the rabbit shows up in the woods and scares the person, I wanted to see the rabbit a couple times, so I rewound it
I
and
don't
watched the
remember that
rabbit.
part.
There was a bunny rabbit.
Wait.
Oh, I also rewound the kitty part because I was like, did they throw that cat? Like,
My
in
brain,
the
Yeah.
diner.
my brain is so rotted out that when you said the bunny rabbit scares a person, my brain conjured the image from one of the Last of Us video games where a rabbit gets shot by an arrow and somebody on Twitch reacting going, that was what my brain brought up instead of the actual footage from this movie, which I told you my brain refuses to store this movie in it. Anytime I try, it's like, no, you're not allowed. We have other important information like how to use chopsticks and a fork, because if you try and remember this movie, you'll forget how to use those things as punishment.
This movie single-handedly pushed chopsticks out of your head, or attempted to.
And a fork.
and a fork.
I wouldn't know
I
how
can't
to
do
eat
forks
anymore.
now
I'd be
because
eating with
Tommy
my hand.
Jarvis is Jason.
I'd have to eat with a giant wooden spoon like Junior or whatever it does in this movie.
Are we still in the first 15 minutes of the movie?
No, we're almost
Don't
to the
worry. These
second
movies
page.
usually we get to the end and then it's like, okay, and then it's over because it's just a montage of people getting murdered.
Yeah, and we've covered a lot of this stuff, so we can kind of glaze over it.
They do start murdering them much faster at the end.
That's how
that's
these movies
true.
always end, is like a crazy, like mixtape of death where it's just like, oh, one.
We're
This
getting
one
there.
even more so than some of the other ones.
We go to the redneck's house. This is where we get the great line: "You dildo, eat your fucking slop."
We're not going to talk about Grandpa and how sweet he is, and kind and nice. Like he's like, all right, go call everyone for breakfast, and then Reggie goes to the door and goes, "Yo, breakfast is ready." And
I
Grandpa's
could have done that myself.
But he doesn't yell at Reggie for saying that. He just
No,
kind of
he just
walks
says
away
it to himself.
and quietly says it to himself. Yeah, like I could have done that. And like it's one of those moments where you're like, oh, this character is probably going to be so like nice and funny throughout the movie, and then you just never see him again until his corpse
he
flies
gets thrown through a window.
Yeah. Which, as Jason was saying earlier, the end of this movie it's basically like a like those CDs from the 90s, like now that's what you call music or whatever. It's just like the best of all the other movies previous to this. They do every gag. They even set it in similar ways. Like they're like, now there's going to be a thunderstorm out of nowhere. Now we're going to put it in a barn. And it's like everything is from the ends of those movies, sort of mashed into one thing.
X-ray. They were saying this is a callback to this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying earlier in the movie too, where the kills
That's
are all references.
Yeah.
The stab up through the bed, I think he does it in the first one, and then in like
there's an arrow that goes through Kevin Bacon's neck in the first movie.
I think he kills somebody through a bed with a knife as well.
So was Jason not the killer in the first movie?
No, Pamela Voorhees was his mom.
Okay, because in the it said that this is the second movie in which he's not the killer, which is also the first movie. And I went, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's his mom because Jason drowns
as a little boy. And then in the second movie, and then Pamela gets her head chopped off at the end of the first movie. Second movie, Jason is the killer with a bag on his head. And it's not until the third movie that we get hockey mask Jason, which lives on to this day. And the fourth movie is where Jason is killed, but every movie he dies in some
This movie
way.
also has two fully realized like iconic versions of Jason. We get in the very opening scene, we see the version of Jason that we know like in our heads, where he's got like mangled clothes, he's got the chop in his head, and then when imposter Jason shows up, he's got the jumpsuit and like the pristine mask.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on in this movie, despite how fucking bad it is. It is an iconic moment for the fashion of it all, which is a new segment we're doing here on Hey, did you see this one called the fashion of it all? Fashion. It's time for fashion.
No, it's fashion.
Fashion. Fascination.
Also, that image that I have drawn of Jason, I think, is from this movie.
Exactly.
Sure it is from this movie. If you all know it, it's on our timer.
Jumpsuit. Yeah.
Oh wait, no, it isn't. It's red.
Uh-oh.
I lied.
What a lie you've told.
I'm a
But
liar.
look at that transition. Look how fucking seamless that was.
I know. I'm in control now.
We almost didn't do this tonight. We almost had to set up my dumb Zoom daisy chain nonsense bullshit.
Never
We're
again.
so entranced. This is going to be, is that a word? Enthralled? You know,
Entranced.
And entranced. Don't worry. I say words that don't exist sometimes. It's
You
great.
dildo, eat your fucking slop.
You big dildo. I love calling people a dildo. I think it's so funny. I don't know why. I think just the word dildo is funny. It's a funny sounding word. It sounds like a weird bird to me. Like a bird.
Like the dodo.
Like a bird with really tiny legs that don't look like they should be able to support the size of its body. Yeah, like a dodo. Like a dodo.
Like the shoe bill.
But also a dildo. What it is kind of funny too if you use it in the right context.
Or if you use it in... Mysterious man appears. Old drifter. Jason red hair.
And then she also has another funny line, Ethel. She says, holy shit, who the fuck are you? Like she's so startled, but she doesn't just say like, oh, or like what? And she doesn't sound like what she says is funny within the context of what's happening. I think that this lady is killing this role. Like she's very funny. Everything
Who
she
is
does
she?
is funny.
Is she from another movie we've done on the show? Because she looked extremely familiar.
Oh God, probably.
Is she somebody from a John Carpenter? Because she acts like somebody out of a John Carpenter movie.
She's not in a lot of stuff, guys.
That's crazy.
I'm telling you, the X-ray. No one had been in more than like 3 movies.
She's in a lot of TV. Lots of TV.
I might recognize it from somewhere because I'm a bit of a TV buff. I'm a bit of a TV buff myself.
Her top-rated movie, her top-rated like known for movie is this movie, which is unfortunate because
She looks like an SNL character.
She does look like an SNL. She reminded me of the character from The Mandalorian. You know, the one who's like, "All right, Mando, I'll help you fix your ship," and then she like takes care of Grogu.
Amy Sedaris.
Yeah. I don't remember the name of the character from Star Wars, but I mean like that.
No, Amy Sedaris, the actor that plays Gruntrock or whatever.
Who also plays characters like that in like SNL and also the At Home with whatever. She's great. She's great.
Yeah. Maybe she got inspiration from this role.
Amy Sedaris and Tracy Ullman, kind of, I get them a little bit mixed up. That's who I wanted to go for, but
Latrine.
Similar character actors can Amy Sedaris is from Strangers with Candy though, and Tracy Ullman is from the Tracy Ullman Show and lots of other stuff.
You telling me that Tracy Ullman is from the Tracy Ullman Show? No,
debut of the titular Simpsons.
I didn't know that.
Police investigating the murders of the greasers.
You know what? Some people might not have known that, so we shouldn't make fun. Yes.
So we get
so Roy was played by a guy named Dick Wiend.
Yeah, I had to look it up because I was like, "Is this name Dick Wind?" Because that is a crazy name, Dick Wind. That sounds like something you would call somebody to make fun of them.
You Dick Wind.
Dick Wind.
Sounds like it sounds like something that the bad guys in Christine would have called the nerd. You Dick Wind.
Yeah, it does. Or maybe like a tease, you know, like you would call like somebody who's like attractive, but you can't, you know, like an incel would call someone a dick wind. That's a real dick wind right there.
Real dick wind over there.
Like the opposite of like a cock blocker.
Yeah.
Yes.
A dick winder. Okay.
You're not the only person who thinks that Ethel is fantastic. I was actually saying like, oh, I got to do a podcast today. We're doing this movie. And they were like, weirdly, I like that movie. And Ethel is the best character like in that movie and in all of the Jason movies.
She is maybe the best character in all the Jason movies because she's the most of a character. She is stealing the show when she's on screen. She's on screen with every single character in this movie at the same time. They're all there. And she's the only one that is in any way interesting. Everyone else is like boring and
I am
lame.
a nerd with a stutter. I am a prep.
And she's not even really like a stereotype in a way. I think that's why it's interesting is because like her son is definitely a stereotype. She is sort of in the realm of a stereotype, but she's giving a performance that makes her stand out from it. Like she doesn't seem like she's dumb. She doesn't seem like she's an incestuous weirdo. She just seems like an intense, foul-mouthed woman, and it's like she ran with the character.
What was the Stephen King movie we did? There's that scene where they're in it's like a farm, and I think it was the window one, Secret Window, and there's that part with like all of the laundry, all of the like sheets. Was that one? This house, this area reminded me of that.
You might be thinking of Needful Things.
Things.
There's an Ethel-like character.
Yes, exactly. Needful Things. That's what this reminded me of. That's a John Carpenter, or is that a Stevens?
It's I don't remember who the director is.
Or both.
It's not John Carpenter.
Okay, that's a Stephen King one.
Yeah.
Buster and Lana, the Buster and Lana sequence. That's where we're at. Unless there's anything you have to add to
Nip City.
Nip City, y'all. I mean, there is the one scene where we get the sheriff and all the boys cleaning up the body.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I
That's where
kind of glossed over that.
We get another ambulance. That's the Roy scene where he's like, "I'm Roy. Remember Roy? That's my name. Don't wear it out." And the sheriff's like, "All right, Roy, get back to cleaning up corpses." And then somebody says something crazy. Oh, it's like the deputy says to the sheriff, he's like, "Well, sheriff, it looks like we've got another maniac on the loose." And then it cuts immediately to the ambulance driver, and he's like, "Dun dun dun," like looking around with his crazy blue eyes, and you're like, okay, well, if you don't know already, this guy's the murderer.
Or is he?
When you know that he's the murderer, it's so wildly obvious. You're like, holy shit, that this movie is really trying hard to be like, this guy's the murderer, guys.
I had no idea.
It's me too.
Until I
It's the
read the X-ray.
It's the difference between watching this movie one time and two times, which you did, Steve.
It's
you
the
watched
difference
this...
between watching this movie in your pocket while almost getting hit by a car and watching this movie.
Pocket, yeah.
You have to die in real life to really get this movie. By getting hit by a car.
A wear car. It's just a jerk in a giant car. You know, those like, it was some kind of like not a city car. It was like a Jeep thing. And he was making a left turn off of a small street. So he was looking over at like oncoming traffic to see if he could make the turn. And little Noel, wheel with my corgi legs, just like going through the tall grass. Like there's a stop sign there. You need to stop. He's looking over me. Doesn't see me at all. I'm like, surely this car will stop. And then I have to like, out of the way. So stupid. I hate
and you got hit by that car, and don't call me Shirley. I had a similar thing today where I was crossing the street, and I always just cross because fuck you. I have the right of way. I have the crossing sign. And damned if you do, this guy took a right and almost fucking took me out. And I had that same like, you son of a bitch. But the thing is I stalked him a little bit. I stalked him up the road, and I followed the car a little bit, and I kept looking at him, and he wouldn't look at me. So
this guy yelled sorry when he actually saw me.
Jason walking down the street.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Jason, why? Is this a Final Destination moment?
I do a little bit of a Jason like gait when I'm walking. Because I'm a professional wrestler everywhere I go, like because I'm listening to music and I'm like, dun, 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 dun. And I definitely had that like, what if I get into a screaming fist fight with this guy? Full fantasy. I would never fist fight anybody. I'm a.
All right, tough.
Okay,
guy. Let's talk about the movie.
Buster and Lana. Buster and Lana goes by pretty quick. I immediately wrote they're gonna die because who pulls their tits out into a mirror and they film it for the sole purpose of them just getting changed in a washroom?
She says something about like,
it's time to party,
shoot booby time or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember what she says, but she says something weird when she rips her shirt open.
And Buster's out in the
this
car.
Character
like,
played by
lines.
Angela from The Office. And then she goes to the orderly from the beginning of the movie, which is the guy who dropped off Tommy, who is dressed like a Spetsnaz warrior, I suppose. He's got that thin black and white t-shirt on underneath his cool leather jacket. And, you know, he starts doing drugs, which is usually in these types of movies, or specifically the Jason movies, as soon as you do drugs on screen, it's a death sentence. And also showing your boobs as well. So every time someone was about to show their boobs in the movie, I'm like, don't do it, you're gonna die.
I like when he's talking about the weather and he's like, it's mountainous in this region, so there's going to be a strong overcast and also a chance of flurries up your nose. And then he rips a line, and then we all went. And we get a cat. That's when we get the cat jump scare, which actually was the only thing in this movie that made me go, huh, for a sec.
Yeah, because I was like, did they hurt the cat? Because I don't put it past this production to injure an animal.
No, I don't know if you know this about the very first Friday the 13th movie, but in that movie, there's a snake that gets chopped in half. And there was supposed to be a prosthetic snake that gets chopped in half. But nope, they chopped a real snake in half and filmed it. So
and the snake handler was upset.
Yes, that's their snake.
That's his friend.
His
bread and butter.
Also, I don't think it's called a snake handler. Sounds
animal
like
wrangler.
There was probably a snake handler on this production.
Snake Noel. Your title. I'm titillated.
It's been there forever. You didn't see that?
Just noticed. So anyway, Baxter gets an axe to the head for his cocaine abuse, and the cocaine goes flying everywhere. And Lana walks out, and she gets in the car, unbeknownst to her that her boyfriend's been axed in the face, and she sees the coke on the floor of the driver's side, and she's like, "Hey, spilling this coke everywhere! You're wasting your money." She licks a little bit, and then she goes to do a line
and says, tasty, which I'm pretty sure cocaine does not taste good.
No, I don't know what cocaine tastes like, but it tastes exactly like if you were to crush up an Advil and taste the Advil. I never tasted
crushed
it
up an Advil and tasted it.
I like that, but I don't know what it tastes like. So,
like the outside tastes like candy.
That's not what cocaine tastes like. Not that I know. It tastes like kind of like more chemically. Not that I know. Chemically Advil.
Is the word you're looking for bitter?
Yep.
Yep.
She gets axed also. She gets chopped in the guts, and we fade out. And I think that's the end of Act 1.
I just want to ask you guys, do you know what impression the orderly was doing? Like he's like, no, he does like a like he's doing some sort of like, I don't know, like Ed Sullivan. I'm not even sure if that's a correct. Like he's clearly doing an impression of
Jerry Lewis.
It didn't sound like Jerry. I know who Jerry Lewis is, but he was doing some sort of like, and then it goes up your nose. Chances of boo.
Should I check the?
This fucking guy over here.
He's probably just doing some sort of like talk show host of the era, or like even maybe like 10 to 15 years previous. When like something's famous for 10 to 15 years and then everybody has their version of the impression or whatever, like
my wife.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it'd be funny if Droopy Dog was based on some 50s or 60s actor. It'd be funny if later they bring back Looney Tunes and there's a Borat. I think that would be funny.
A Borat
or an Austin Powers Looney Tune that's like,
well, I mean,
movie, baby. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Pepe Le Pew is just Austin Powers, right? Like maybe they just like adapt that character.
C'est toujours, c'est l'amour. I give you the akak of love.
Yeah. And he goes, oui, oui, baby.
I would never let somebody like Austin Powers to tell me to behave.
This is shagadelic, baby. No.
Tommy sees Jason again. That happens. He's tripping his balls off.
He's in a lot in this movie.
There's also
how many lines does he have in this movie?
I was gonna count because I'm pretty sure it's less than the amount of people that get killed.
The film was originally written to have Corey Feldman as the star. Oh, sorry. I'm just gonna read the trivia out intermittently.
Right.
Jokes.
So Corey Feldman, was supposed to be in the movie, but they had to change it because he couldn't do it because of The Goonies, which he was filming at the same time. Which The Goonies, a real movie, an actual movie with, an actual budget, a story.
Sean Astin.
Do
you know who I'm gonna go see this weekend, or maybe not this weekend? Dominic Monaghan and Billy Boyd.
I saw it. It's 3 hours long. It's very good. Flies by. 3 hours.
Usually when you say the length first,
I do that on purpose.
It's
they send you. No, they send it to you. They say like, just so you know, it's 60 minutes.
2 hours and 58 minutes or whatever.
Like 4 days before your show. That's why when we were going to the show, I was like, I just got reminded by Mervish that we're going to the thing.
Also interesting to call back to last week. I forget if I mentioned this, but Billy Boyd plays the doll in Seed of Chucky.
He does.
And I wanted to bring that up, and I forgot if I did or not. I think that I did. Maybe I didn't. Who knows?
We brought it up on the episode.
I think that I did. I think that I meant to tell that to Madison, my wife, and still haven't told her.
My wife.
It'd be weird if we didn't bring it up on the episode that he was in the movie.
That's true.
We did. True. I remember doing it.
Can you please tell me who the guy in the suit is? Is he the police commissioner?
He's the mayor.
Is he the mayor?
I had the same reaction to that.
Who is this guy?
I was watching the scene and they do not establish that he's the mayor right away. So I'm like, is this the mayor? Or is he like, I don't know, like a rich guy who owns...
Well, he's like, I'll have your badge and your gun kind of vibe.
I was like, he's a man in power, and I moved on.
Yeah. Yeah. He's him and Pullman and like a stand-up comedian from the late 80s are arguing in the sheriff's office. And
Bill Pullman?
I don't know, the mayor kind of looks like Bill Pullman a little bit. Just a little bit. Like a thicker
Pullman's
Pullman.
much better looking.
Yeah, like Bill Pullman if he wasn't more attractive. Like Bill Pullman now. He looks like Bill Pullman now. Current
Is Bill
era
Pullman
Bill Pullman.
dead?
No. Bill Pullman's the guy from the Independence Day, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't he play the
And A
president?
League of Their Own.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that Tom Hanks? And isn't it called A League of Their Own?
I said A League of Their Own. Only I stumbled and mumbled.
In A League of Their Own. is what I
No,
heard.
his
I also called it on Independence Day. So-
Gina Davis's husband, the reason that she quits baseball. Wasn't that
Oh,
Bill Pullman?
Vagina Davis.
For a movie podcast, we're really struggling right now.
That's true. Some
She has an institute for women in movies not being treated bad and film history. The Gina Davis Institute for Anti-Misogyny. I don't know
Speaking
what's
of, does this movie pass the Bechdel test at all at any time in any way?
I didn't care.
I don't think two women talk to each other in this movie,
Give me a second.
let alone it passes the Bechdel test.
Wow,
Some-
that is some keyboard editor there.
It's got one of those clickety clackities. The scene that we're talking about is Chief Tucker actually brings up the fact that it could be Jason, and
You know who this is, right? It's Jason Voorhees. And
And
then
the guy
he's
in
like,
the
you shut
suit-
your whore mouth.
yeah,
Yeah. He's like, this is your Jason Voorhees right here. And then he pours the ashes from the ashtray into his mouth. And he says,
And
eat
then-
it. Eat it.
He slams it into his hand so hard, though, that, like, that's not Foley. Like, they would never go back and make a smashing into the hand noise for
Yeah.
that. It's really hard.
I did like this moment because it actually felt like there was like, you know, their stakes are being risen in the movie, but it also made me question not the mayor, but the police chief, because like the police chief is more willing to believe that a zombie is going around killing people than
that's
is
some
just a
like
main. And
perfectly
you know what?
reasonable.
It's not like in most horror movies where the person who's saying something crazy is right and we all know he's right. He's wrong. He's
No,
not
I'm
right.
going. You're wrong,
Yeah.
person.
He is
Steinmann.
wrong. And it's not like he turns out to be right ever. He is wrong. There's no Jason Voorhees is not killing anybody. It's the ambulance driver who he interacts with on a daily basis that's murdering people.
I'd like to point out that the next scene is I wrote Eddie, and I don't know if we ever got his sex pot girlfriend's name. I wrote Big Boobs because that was a quality that she had. And this is the scene where they bang. And I think this is one of the remnants of the pornography that was left in the film, you know? Who put that there?
That was you, Jason.
Oh. But it was very tastefully shot. It wasn't. It was kind of a weird, off-putting sex scene in a movie, which, you know, horror
I
movies
skipped over it.
have them all the time.
Well, like I said before, the director was credited as calling this movie essentially a porno. So I assume that this was probably a lot longer and a lot.
Yeah, like what
So-
did this like? Did they show stuff? Like what was this scene?
Well, that's
That-
he
that-
said you wouldn't believe the things that they cut. So let's just not worry about
So
it.
her
Just
name
imagine
is-
a porno.
Deborah Voorhees.
That's what
the
that's what the
actress?
actor's name. Yeah,
Yeah.
her name is Deborah Voorhees. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
no.
in a 2013 interview, she revealed that her nudity in this film got her fired as a teacher at two schools years later.
Years later. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
At one high school, some boys got hold of her topless images from the film and text messaged them around the school.
What? When did she get
like
fired?
20 years later.
I
That's
guess so.
crazy.
Wait a sec, Deborah Voorhees. What?
Jason's looking it up now. And he's like,
Debbie.
and he's like, "Auga! Holy moly, Deborah Voorhees!"
Wow.
Huh?
Yeah, that's kind of insane that
She's
she
still
got hired.
working.
She would get fired in the era of text messaging for making a movie in the 80s.
Yeah.
That's whatever.
She was only
I
in
assume
11
this happens
things.
in the southern United States, maybe.
Probably, yeah.
You can't just go around making pornographic movies. This happened 20 years ago. I don't care.
Without counting the laughing or yelling, the Tommy Jarvis character has only 24 words throughout the entire film.
Words.
Wow. See, I was like, I knew it was very short in the amount of words that I was gonna make a joke that you could probably count them on your fingers and toes in my outro. I was not off by that many.
Nice.
No.
So
Shockingly close.
this is the scene
If
where
you had one more of each, you'd be right on the money.
this is the scene where the Drifter Man is watching from the bushes, and then he gets stabbed in the gut. Jason cuts Deborah Voorhees's face with shears.
No, he sticks them through the eye holes.
Yeah. Well, it also looked like he went. And
I got like he just shoved him into the.
She's cut across here too. But
it would be great if they spent more time on the budget for the special
Deborah
effects.
Voorhees won a Texas Best Body Contest when she was 19.
Who hasn't, though, in this day and age?
Texas, I was right.
The thing that I liked about this sequence, though, is the kill with Eddie was actually one of the most innovative kills I've seen in a horror movie. He's pulled against a tree, and like some sort of like leather belt thing is wrapped around his like eyes, and Jason is just like twisting it with a piece of wood.
I think it's his belt.
He twists it one way and then twists it another way afterwards.
Jeez, no! Stop ruining the fantasy. You're poisoning the well.
How it just attached.
Yeah.
Like he just went like that and it just like locked itself.
Yeah. Listen, this ambulance driver has been practicing for a long time. He's been wanting. You guys think that his estranged son, who he looks at from afar, is the reason that he went crazy? No.
He felt so strongly about a kid he probably never
spoke to.
Why did
Maybe he spoke to him because he's probably been there before, right? To the foster home. He knew it was his son because that's why he went insane, right?
Yes.
That's the thing
that he had a picture of him in his wallet.
Right. Yes.
And it wasn't a young picture of him either. It was a production still.
It was a headshot. Yeah. It was a fucking headshot.
Like him 4 minutes before he ate that first chocolate bar.
Again, the necklace was predominantly there. He's a good Christian boy who just loves chocolat.
Why didn't Roy just be like, "That's my son right there"?
Because he wanted to kill everybody. The one true king. Yeah. And
the one true king, Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. God said, "Let there be light," and there was. The worst line in the Bible.
Imagine he went up and started like caressing his face and just like, I don't know, singing some like "Away in a Manger." He just started singing some.
The only religious
Christmas hymn
is Christmas songs.
Yeah, I'm not religious. I never went to religious singing school.
I never went to Uber Driver.
Religious singing school.
Yeah, they send you there on the weekends or whatever, right? Isn't that how it works?
Sunday school?
On Sunday.
Sunday.
So this is where things sort of ramp up a little bit more than they already have. Reggie, Pam, Andy go see the guy from the guy from Joanna Man, and I think he's in Double Dragon as well. I think he's like the underling boss in Double Dragon, and he's got a gnarly Jerry curl. And Reggie says, "Where did you get that?" And it pans over to just a woman smoking a joint. I think it's funny too that
she's an object.
Demon, yes, exactly. Demon, the name of the guy from Joanna Man, says
it's probably not the best movie for us to say that he's from, but it is the one that I remember the most.
I think he might also be in Double Dragon.
He's in a lot of stuff.
He's DJ in Street Fighter.
Is he?
Can I read another fun trivia?
Read all the trivia you got.
One of the characters who was played by Melanie Kinnaman, I don't know who that is, claims her favorite scenes in the film are the ones where she's wearing the wet see-through t-shirt. She felt didn't look good in the film until they turned the sprinklers on.
Hell yeah.
And contrary to popular belief, A New Beginning was a hit at the box office.
Much like an 80s porno.
Producer Frank Mancuso Jr. was so pleased with the take at the box office opening weekend, he called up director Danny Steinmann and claimed the numbers were like the golden times.
Much like an 80s porno, these scenes have something for everybody. Every scene with a naked lady is a little bit different, and it's all for somebody.
Oh, I think that's Pam. I thought she was actually very pretty.
Yeah, the thing that I found interesting about Pam was she had that like weird 80s makeup going on, and once she was like all wet and the makeup was off, when you could see her face, I was like, what is with the weird 80s over the top makeup?
It's 'cause it's the 80s.
I gotta say, Miguel A. Nunez is in so much stuff. Like is that
Demon?
He's in hundreds and hundreds of things. It's crazy.
Yeah, he played DJ in Street Fighter.
He was big as like a character actor in the 90s and early 2000s, and then ever since then he's
in Double Dragon.
He's been fairly okay. That came out in the 90s. You sack of piss. This
you dildo.
You fucking big dildo.
You pervert.
Hey, pervert. But anyway, he's been working consistently for the entire time since. Like he's on stuff constantly. Cool. Good for him, man. I like character actors who just never disappear and are always just kind of floating around. It's great. You know, like the guy who played Skeletor. What was his name?
Ralph Fiennes.
No. You're thinking of Voldemort.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh, apparently the scene where she rips her thing open and says Showtime wasn't in the script.
She's probably a porno actor. That's porno behavior.
She'd recently seen Bob Fosse's All That Jazz.
Oh.
And so was inspired by that.
That's what she said anyway afterwards. That actually was just like she was just talking to the director in private, and she did that, and he filmed it, and no one knew. And then he's like, "Let's put it in the movie." And then they did cocaine together until the sun rose.
Where did you get that? I said that already, but Reggie also talks about how Pam is his girlfriend, and I wouldn't have noted this, but it gets a little weird at the end of the movie where she just keeps hugging him over and over and cradling his head to her breast. And I get that they went through a traumatic experience, which we'll talk about.
He's
here
a child, and she's comforting him. Jason, chill out, you pervert.
Yeah.
Okay,
relax.
Anyway, it's a means to an end. Redneck shows up. Tommy shows up. They fight each other. The redneck Junior is basically like, "You people are not supposed to leave the person house, and you got to go back." And Tommy's like,
he threatens Tommy, and
this is what Tommy says.
Nothing. And then Tommy turns into a Tekken 2 character and starts beating the shit out of him.
Again,
crazy.
Just kicks the shit out of him with actual kung fu. It's crazy.
It's amazing.
Pam and Reggie, Tommy runs off. Pam and Reggie chase them. Jerry Curl guy is what I wrote. His name's Demon, and his girlfriend, I think I wrote her name down later. They go to the outhouse because he's had so many enchiladas that he's got to go to the outhouse.
These damn enchiladas!
She's playing a funny game where, she shakes the outhouse while he's pooping.
Go, ooh, baby, ooh, baby, ooh, baby, ooh, baby.
Anita is her name.
I wrote down, hey, baby, let's improv a weird song while I shit, baby.
Anita gets axed, and all we hear is like a little yelp, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on out there?" And then the thing shakes again. Did you notice that Demon didn't wipe? I know it's a movie, but he didn't.
That was the first thing I noticed.
Like, dude, at least get to my wiping.
It's a horrible diarrhea shit too. Like, come on, Demon. Maybe that's why they call him Demon.
Because he just ruins an outhouse.
Refuses to wipe, just like a demon.
And then
he's a shit demon.
He's a shit demon. We get one of the weirdest kills I've seen in a horror movie, where I wish this had gone on for a little bit longer, where Jason is skewering the outhouse with a pike, and it's going through, and he's dodging them. I wish the scene had gone on for longer, but he gets skewered in the knee and then finally stabbed in the gut.
Well, I have to say, listen, we don't need to. Okay, this performance of him dying is the most legitimate performance in the entire movie. This man is
He's
crying and tearing up, and he's legitimately looks frightened. Every other person is just a quick scream and a hack to the camera. He is like, he's selling this, and it's working for me. Where I'm like, wow, this performance and this moment is from a different movie. It just like teleported its way into this Friday the 13th movie, and it feels just as out of place as Tommy Jarvis whipping out his best Tekken moves and kicking the shit out of Junior.
Attitude adjusting a guy through a table.
It's like this weird jigsaw puzzle where all the pieces don't quite fit together, but you're like forcing them, smashing them on the table to fit together. And this is one of them again, where you're just like, why is his performance of his death so good? And then, you cut to someone dying in the goofiest way possible 5 minutes later, less than 5 minutes later, like 2 minutes later, the guy on the motorcycle is driving around snotting everywhere while his mom is smashing stuff into a stew or whatever, right? And you're like, it doesn't make sense tonally. What's happening?
Which is coming up.
By the same thing multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
So Pam and Reggie make it back to the house. They kind of discuss what happened, what they just witnessed, which was Tommy Jarvis running into the darkness, and I guess they just kind of left Demon and Anita for dead. The scariest part of this movie is seeing inside the redneck home. Junior drives his motorcycle like an asshole. He's driving around the house like, yeehaw, yeehaw, and he gets decapitated during this sequence, which is great. Well, Ethel is just yelling out the window like, you gotta stop, you gotta freak. The best
I'm
thing,
making your dinner. Yeah.
The best thing in this movie, I just want to say, is when Ethel basically looks into the camera and says, like, gives a look about Junior's, what Junior's doing, because she's so fed up with this guy. She has no time for her own son because he's such an idiot. Because there's a character trait that Junior has throughout this movie that is every time she says something, he kind of parrots it back to her.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really funny. And in this, he comes back yelling about how he just faced off against Tommy. Tommy's got to die because he stood up to him. And he's just doing literally circles around this farmhouse. And Jason comes out of nowhere and cuts his head off.
Yeah, I think, in a better movie, this sequence would have maybe been powerful.
Happen? Oh, sorry.
Oh, it doesn't happen, but maybe it would have been more powerful and it would have made more sense, right? For this character who is like, doesn't have any original thoughts, doesn't ever say anything to his mother, anything that his mother says to him is always repeated. And in this moment where he's saying all these original ideas, like, there's something there, but you're like, oh God, this is just annoying. Like they're trying to do something that just isn't working. And it's the same as like setting up all these breadcrumbs and never fully having it pay off. It's like, it'll be more powerful the more times we make him circle around, and we'll have him saying all this dialogue, and we'll show him snotting and crying and giving like a half decent performance in what it is that's happening. But like, it comes off as grating and annoying. You're like, I cannot wait for this guy to die. Like he's gonna die any second now. Please.
Maybe they wanted us to want him to die.
Maybe.
I mean, he did beat up the guy that. Wait, is there a main character?
I mean, Tommy
is there a character?
Tommy Jarvis,
I know, but like, is there a character that we're supposed to feel anything?
I only felt something for George, Grandpa George, the chef.
My favorite Ethel scene was when she's talking to the turkey and she's like, I'm going to cut you up into pieces.
Right. Yeah.
Well, guess what
Ethel
happens?
is the best character, but George is the character I cared about. And George.
Guess what happens to Ethel for all of her work in this film?
Boring death.
Jason smashes through the fucking window in front of her and chops her directly in the face.
So here's the dumbest thing in this sequence. The bike stops. You hear nothing. She kind of calms down, like, thank God. And then you hear the door open to the house, like a sound effect of a door opening to their house. And then he kills her through the window. So,
do you know what's equally stupid?
Who entered the house? Hold on.
Jason, like, canonically kind of reveres elder women because of his own mom. I feel like this was a prime opportunity. Forget that. But I feel like with that same idea in mind, this was maybe a prime opportunity to have a moment of him being like, I can't kill you. You kind of remind me of my mother. And then she gets one up on him.
But he's not Jason.
That's true. Actually, that's a good point.
But I mean, her dying in her stew is an appropriate death.
That's
for
appropriate.
Her.
Yes.
But and they set up the fact that the door opened. So have him drown her in her stew. But then it's just like a smash hand through the window and dead.
I think people just had to die too quickly.
That's true. And this next scene proves that, because the next scene is Robin and Jake on the couch, the nerd and the prep on the couch. And in the last movie, there's a great similar sequence where the nerd and his buddy are watching a porno on a
But it's like an old porno, like from
right?
like the black and white era, where it's like it's just like women showing their breasts or whatever.
Yeah. Jason comes in though, and he corkscrews the nerd in the face, and it's like a whole thing, like it's a whole moment. But in this,
through the hand, and then he chops him in the face with a cleaver.
And
much
then
better cleaver death than anything that happens in this movie.
Stabs his buddy through the screen, through the projection screen.
They do a lot of proper setup and payoff for everything in the environment.
But in this, Jason, we just get Jason's arm go up with a cleaver or with the machete, and then we see later that Jake's face got cut. It's like this is what I'm saying, how the deaths are less impactful because we don't really see what happens.
There's too many of them, and you don't see what happens, and they don't put any time into the special effects.
But there's why it's not there's more gore almost, because they just show like a gruesome scene a lot of times in this. Like they show a lot more aftermath of things happening. In fact, when Junior's head gets cut off, we see a head roll down the driveway. Like it's weird, but it's not as impactful, I guess, overall, because it's...
Well, I mean, so Crispin Glover in the fourth movie getting a corkscrew through the hand.
That's right, Crispin Glover.
He says like, "Hey, where's the corkscrew?" or whatever, and then as a response to that, he gets a corkscrew through the hand, and then he
Creepy Thin Man.
Yes, Creepy Thin Man from Back to the Future and the Charlie's Angels movies, and we all know him from when he tried to kick. What's his name in the face? Late night host. Which one was it?
Oh, David Letterman.
David Letterman.
Banned from the David Letterman show because he went on. He went on David Letterman, famously went on David Letterman on acid and acted like a lunatic.
I don't know how true all of this is. It's like there are alleged details that maybe were like, inflamed over the years by
Speaking of, I'm not sure how true this is, but do you know why this director didn't do anything after this? He got into a terrible bicycle accident and was never the same again.
Bicycle?
Like a human powered bicycle or a motorcycle?
It didn't say motor.
Right. You know what's interesting about Brett the Hitman Hart?
The Brett the Hitman Hart.
So the whole thing used to be the Heartman, the Hitman. Bret Hart had a stroke while he was driving a bike, and people just assumed that he was on a motorcycle. He was driving a bicycle and had a stroke and crashed.
You drive a bicycle?
Yeah, I feel like you would just ride it, not drive it. But
anyway,
I would accept pilot it.
He piloted a bicycle to his own stroke. Nope.
That sucks.
Well, that's unfortunate for the Hitman.
Yeah, he was never the same again.
And he went on to direct several successful
And he went on
projects.
to hate Bill Goldberg. Robin goes to bed fully topless. We already talked about this.
Listen, there are plenty of people who go to sleep topless. It's not I'm pretty sure that like a lot of people don't want to wear a bra to bed. Like that's not comfortable.
Okay, hold
shirt.
Hold on. Whoa. Don't want to wear a bra to bed. You mean like the cage of wires that like will actually make your arms fall asleep when you're like your torso goes numb if you fall asleep.
That's not what I'm saying.
And it crawls up, strangles.
My point is that she went to bed in a perfectly framed way to have her breasts showing the whole time.
I mean, it is a movie, so they framed
as though a porn director had been filming it the whole time. She sees Jake in her bed, and Jason does his fave up through the bed kill from underneath. Oh, what's he gonna write? Male gaze. Oh no, movie man, porno behavior, male gaze. It's the tree. Perfect. It's the Triforce of hatred.
Yeah.
So then Violet's doing the robot in her room. She's popping and locking it like nobody's business. Reminds me of that scene in Always Sunny. If you guys aren't familiar with Always Sunny, there's a scene where Charlie basically teaches Dennis how to huff paint. And there's this great scene where Dennis is just watching Charlie like pop and lock, and he does this move where he like pantomimes plucking out Dennis's eyes and eats them and goes, and it's very funny. It's very funny. That's what this whole sequence reminded me of. It goes on for way too long. In the song, yep. Rules, as I already talked about, a man with no life in his eyes. And Jason comes in and fucking strangles her up against the wall and stabs her in the gut.
I wonder if there was an alternative death to this scene.
Yeah, Jason pulls her shirt off.
That's, you know, like, it seems like
her in
maybe something like that might have happened. Because, like, it's kind of, even though it's one of the more impressive practical effects, because they're actually sticking a knife into something and filming it, and there's a reaction, it's not exciting. It's just kind of like you're waiting, and the dancing is more interesting than what's happening in the actual scene when it comes to the murder. You know, the murder is supposed to be the highlight, not the pop and lock. Because I was like, damn, she's doing it. She is popping and locking. And
I thought it would be much lower quality popping and
too.
locking, and it was not.
Especially
it was
when
actually pretty good.
I think Jake went up there to. I don't know if he went up there to talk or if he was just like, can we have sexual relations or whatever. Because
that was my theory when he
infected,
struck out with Robin. He was like, maybe Violet wants to bang out.
I didn't know, because I don't know enough about these characters. I don't know the relationship between Stutter Guy and
Stutter Guy was gonna like pour his heart out to the other one.
That's what I was thinking too, but then there's also a part of me that's like, maybe there's a script where like she's the easy one in the house who always wants to fuck or something.
Yeah, maybe in the porno version he bangs Robin,
but we don't know. That's the thing,
Violet.
is we don't know about any of these characters enough to ever make an informed call about what the conversation could be, because he dies before he even like has a chance to speak to her, because she's dancing and holding a magazine at the same time. Can it wait?
He leaves.
And I'm like, wait for what? Like, what are you doing?
They didn't have TikTok in 1985. They had magazines.
Yeah,
Don't
I'm in the middle of something. I'm popping and locking, and I'm reading a magazine at the same time.
You're changing that, right, Noel? Am I tripping?
I'm writing all of the things Bill Pullman was in.
This is where I would theorize that it's possible that Reggie would be the final girl. He finds all the teens dead. I think that's everyone at this point. I think everybody's dead except Andy. We finally see Jason.
No, we don't see the people who left the house dead yet. The co-worker and then the guy,
and one of the ambulance drivers.
They find them when they're running through the car, and there's
the
still
running
like
scene that goes on.
8 other dead people.
Yeah, the running scene is a direct reference to the end of the second movie. And like this whole end bit is just the end of all of the other more successful and better Jason movies piled on top of each other in a weird way, with a few new things added in, but like not new enough or cool enough for them to in any way outweigh the other movies.
So we don't get a name.
Lazy is what it does feel like.
We don't get a name drop in this film, but we actually see in the flesh Jason at like an hour and 10 minutes, which I think is insane. And it's definitely.
That's when they said the name of the movie in the movie.
Thank you. I love that you did that. That's perfect. I actually had fantasized all day yesterday about you doing exactly what just happened here, and I've never loved you more than I love you right now. That said, it's crazy to me that we don't actually see Jason in any of this movie except for in the fantasy version of Jason in Andy's like, mirrors and stuff. Till this point. But when we do finally see him, he looks wrong. He looks wrong, right?
Jason?
Because he is wrong.
He is. He has those crazy blue eyes, which I've
the blue on his
about earlier.
The blue streaks here instead of the red like horns.
Well, yeah, the mask behind you is accurate on your background. These ones point down. They made something slightly different to again hint to the audience.
There's some weird intelligent moves like in story, like visual storytelling.
Something tells me that the director didn't have a lot of decision making when it came to the actual intelligent decision.
I think all the intelligent stuff came from the script and the script writers, and this weird coke addict porn director was just like, fuck it, I don't know, show the girls' tits more. That's actually how I feel.
I mean, listen, there's
just looked at the screen again.
There is a documentary that we've mentioned a few times on this podcast that's called Friday the 13th Memoirs from Crystal Lake, I believe is the title of it. It's a long title, but it's a very good.
Has a heart out in 2 minutes, so you gotta.
It's a very good. It's a very good documentary, and there is an extended portion of that deals with this movie. And if you want to see all of the harsh, gross realities of how this movie was made, I recommend watching that documentary. It's very good. They don't focus too much on this movie, but they do go into pretty dark depths when it comes to the realities of working with this specific director and what he would do on set. And it's gross. It's not great.
And it spans so many years and so many different directors and so many different like iterations. It's not like a Chucky where it's just like Don Mancini writing his vision every time.
Yeah. Well, you know
every one of these movies is different.
You know the audio clip that we play where it's like, all right, let's shoot this piece of shit.
That's this.
That's the guy. That's what he is. That's the kind of director that he is.
We rolling?
Yeah, we rolling right now.
You just fucked on camera. No, actually, the camera wasn't rolling. That was just two people having sex in a studio.
Yeah.
Fuck it, I love it.
He's like, oh yeah, I forgot. I told them they were allowed to do that.
Also, I'm naked, just like Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah, I'm a real Paul Verhoeven over here.
I mean, I
lots of words, Noel over here.
Because I'm just astounded that Bill Pullman was in Cagney and Lacey.
Like the original?
Waters. I've seen Dark Waters. That's what they called me in high school when I was in my emo period.
Ayo.
Oh my god, do you know who's on the Tracy Ullman show other than Tracy Ullman?
Bill Pullman.
There we go.
It kind of looked like Bill Pullman if you squint. But also when Jason first appears, like for real in this movie, he does explode through a door, which was fucking amazing.
Well, they've set a precedent now in these movies from the last movie that Jason is no longer allowed to just open doors normally. Yes. He has to explode through them.
But what's great is in just a minute from now, after Pam and Reggie find Matt and the other ambulance driver also dead, Jason's in hot pursuit of them. And we see Matt railroad Spike to a tree. A lot of running. Pam and Reggie make it into a house. Jason does his favorite thing that he did in, I believe, the last movie. He throws a guy through a fucking window.
Yeah.
Again.
But it's not nearly as good as the toss in the fourth. This is the thing that annoys the hell out of me, is that this movie had a very large budget considering what was produced. Considering the actors that they had in it, considering, the cinematography, the locations, and all of that stuff, they had a lot of money to deal with things like this. And the body being thrown through the window in the fourth movie is one of my favorite shots in any Friday the 13th movie, because the way it's framed, you're so sure that the door is going to open and then the window explodes and a corpse flies through the window. Like, that's what's good about it. In this, it's just like, someone flew through the window. Startled, aren't you? And you're like, oh, well, it was way better in the other movie because, they set up anticipation, and I was feeling something about the door, and I was scared that the door was going to open, and then the window exploded and a guy flew through. This movie, no, they don't know the magic. They don't understand the magic, and they're not trying to utilize it, even though they're pulling from these things that already exist. They could have even used it as a storyboard if they wanted to, and found a way to make those same magical moments happen. They didn't.
They could have made a movie, you mean?
They could have made a movie, yeah, but they decided to make a porno. This is a porno.
You know how in the United States you can't call it chocolate bar, it's a candy bar because of some sort of, I don't know if this is
Because
fake
it's not
news,
real
but
chocolate or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, can you still call this a movie?
It's
mean,
a
you
porno with
definitely-
one sex scene.
The thing is that like we even have like, what do you call a film? What do you call a movie? And this is like below both of them somehow.
Flim.
Oh, do you want to know what the difference between a film and a movie is here on Hey, Did You See This One?
No.
Based on my own metric. Well, you see, this is a film because it doesn't have a car chase. It doesn't have an explosion.
This it was technically filmed on film. That's why it's a film. No, it's neither. I would call this a
Flim flam?
I would call this
A picture?
like a spittoon. Like all the other Jason movies spit in a bucket. this is
Oof.
what was left over after.
Okay.
Speaking of,
You guys can talk. I'm going to try and think of what this is.
Okay.
as Pam is about to buy the farm when they're running away, Reggie blasts out of a barn with a fucking plow, like a backhoe, and smashes right into him. But of course, he's not dead. They walk over to him and just stare at him like crying for like a solid minute, and then Jason's like, grab the foot of Reggie, and
Does
into
anyone recall if they ever established that there was a barn anywhere
I don't know.
earlier in the movie? I don't.
I don't think so. To the point that I was like, oh, were they at that place from Friday the 13th Part 3 the whole time?
Well, they are.
How did you
near
know that was
Crystal-
there?
They are near Crystal Lake because Jason Voorhees is the local legend, so we know
I
that.
guess there's that, like, Ethel lives on a farmish thing. Like, she's got chickens and a whole bunch of stuff. So maybe it's just like farming country. And so you know what? We're doing way too much work for this flim
It's true.
flam.
Why are we doing that? Fucking flim flam.
It's true. We do get a chainsaw battle, though. I thought that was pretty interesting.
X-ray. That's a callback.
It is a callback, yeah.
To which one?
The third one.
I don't remember.
Well, the whole barn ending is the third movie. That's
No, I get that, and I knew that, but the chainsaw element was
one of
there-
the guys in the third movie you think is dead.
Oh,
He shows up and he's like, ah, and he comes out and then he dies immediately.
This movie, the name A New Beginning, doesn't make sense since they didn't have a new Jason.
well, they did kind of have two new Jasons.
I think
But this was meant to be Tommy becomes Jason. That's
it was
why
like,
it's A New
forget all
Beginning.
those good movies. Those, I wouldn't say good. Forget all those
Other
watchable movies. How about
And then
this new idea?
Yeah,
We call
so
that
the
new
movie
idea.
doesn't actually, it's like the title doesn't.
I think A New Beginning is supposed to be Tommy, like you said, Tommy becomes the new Jason, and then the end of this movie heavily infers that he is now
But
Jason.
then he doesn't, and the movie
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. Sorry,
And
the flim
you know what?
flam.
And you're even more correct when like you move on to the sixth movie when he is he's now a Jason Hunter, where he's like, my whole goal in life is to kill Jason Voorhees, and everyone's like, okay, you're crazy, man. He's been dead for years. Remember the last movie where they talked about incinerating
They're
his
like, nope,
corpse?
that one doesn't exist.
No.
We're gonna find out all about that in.
I'm
It's
pretty
like
sure
X-Men 3.
I'm pretty sure the beginning of the new
Doesn't
movie
exist.
is Tommy Jarvis accidentally bringing Jason back to life.
With a
Is
lightning
Is there a
bolt.
new one coming out?
I hope so, and I think that the one that came out in 2011 was actually not that bad. I watched it recently, and I was like, this does a serviceable job of making
So-
what I like about Jason a movie again.
So all of these titles don't make any sense because I'm guessing that Friday the 13th, the final chapter, is not the final movie.
Well, that was the last movie.
No,
That's
that
the
was,
movie
that
that
was the
made
one
it
that came
My
out
Name
before
is
this one.
Jason.
Yeah.
So this is
Okay, so Tommy
we're
shows
just
up.
winging this like sketch ass.
Well, so the thing about
Yes,
most-
and
Chucky is the most succinct in terms of storytelling.
Give us the laugh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry. Chucky, our good friend, the little doll, is the most succinct. What's it called? Nightmare on Elm Street is kind of up and down when it comes to how it works, but the lore is quite strong throughout, and you kind of understand the rules as early as the end of the second movie. Hello,
Hey, it's
Space
Tim.
Cadet.
Hello, Tim. Welcome.
And the Michael Myers movies have retconned and rebooted and done all sorts of stuff that their lore is kind of messy. And this one, Jason Voorhees, is they didn't figure out their stride until the next movie. The sixth movie is when they really figured out, like, this is what Jason is, this is what we need to keep doing, and this is how we understand the character. It took them fucking 5 movies before they figured it out.
6 kicks at the can before I figured it out.
I mean, one of the issues is that there was no sort of like thread tying these things together, right? It was like a studio and one guy who like made up the characters, and then a bunch of people just not really giving a shit and being like, well, we're just going to make this for a paycheck. And there was no passion in it, no passion behind it. I think the fourth one, you can argue that Tom Savini came back to be like, I want to kill my monster that I made. Jason Voorhees was my creation, and he's going to die. And I'm going to be the one that kills him in the form of Corey Feldman. And so like, that's why he came back to do it. Whereas the studio was like, no, these movies are still making money. Like, this movie cost about $3 million to make, and it made like 22 million. So it still made a lot of money. And so that's why they didn't stop. You know, we'll just keep making it until it stops. Same with the Saw movies. Same with, you know, like even the Scream movies now they're starting to do it again.
At this time, though, it's crazy that like franchises didn't go on for this long. That's part of why like people my parents' age were like, he died in that last movie, can't bring it back. A 6th one, a 7th one.
Are you insane? Well, it's almost a punchline, right? Like, there's the Leprechaun movies, the Hellraiser movies are wild too. They keep going on and on. There's a space Hellraiser. The Hellraiser is one of like the most serious, fucked up, like psychosexual examination of like perversion and darkness of human nature. And then it just eventually they're like, now he's in space, and you're like, oh, okay, what? Why?
I mean, Hell is probably in space based on Event Horizon, so it kind of tracks with me.
Oh my god, I was talking about Event Horizon earlier today.
It's such a good movie.
Have you covered it?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Made it one of my favorite movies, in fact. Pam, they fight. We have the chainsaw battle. It goes back and forth. The chainsaw just dies. Jason gets chopped in the arm pretty good. When it dies, Pam just throws the chainsaw at Jason, which I thought was hilarious. They all retreat to the loft up the ladder. I thought, what a dumb thing to not just like wait for Jason to like get up the ladder and kick him in the head off the ladder. I feel like that would have been a bold strategy.
You're scared, Jason. Who's going to do it? You?
That's true, but also in the lore of the movie,
a little tiny child, and a woman who's trying to protect him.
Jason is a human man. I know they don't know that yet, but he's a human man. The chainsaw should have taken him out. Chainsaw to the arm should have incapacitated this man, this human. I guess he has the curse of Jason on him. There's a very strong feeling that there's some sort of curse behind Jason in this. It's almost like if you don the mask, maybe, you know, that might be something. Happy Pie Day. Pam manages to throw him from the barn on spikes after a struggle, and it's revealed to the audience it's the ambulance driver all along. I already played that message from
sorry, I didn't.
Wait. She's the one that pushes him? I thought when he chopped his hand off, he fell.
Well, they struggle and he falls.
You know what?
He doesn't. He holds on, and then Tommy, who is also up there,
listen,
Reggie back to life.
Reggie gives him a drop kick,
chops him,
and then Tommy is the one that chops his hand off because it has to be Tommy because Tommy is the one chosen one or whatever.
And then his face opens up in just the right way.
Yeah, just so it shows his perfect face to realize that he's the ambulance driver from the beginning.
And
it's also very funny that he's not wearing like a full mask underneath the mask.
Yeah.
It's clear that he's wearing 2 masks, but like he just has this like weird potato skin.
Why does the face but it looks like it blasted, like it burst open?
Well, it looks like he cut a hole in like a weird latex sock or something.
But so here's some cut though. What I thought was that the mask, when it ripped off the latex. that was
Oh,
on his face.
interesting.
I didn't consider that. Yeah.
Because we do get that great
He was
scene.
like,
of,
"I'll just glue this."
I'll glue this mask to this mask.
we do get the great scene of the mask in the mud puddle, which felt iconic for some reason. I don't think it's part of anything, but it just felt that's. Yes.
It was basically as iconic as the ring being swallowed by the fires of the lava in Mordor.
Of Morgorb.
With like
It's
little
true.
hand.
With T-1000's hand.
Yeah, this is exactly like T-1000 does not. His hand. Does
Everything I said was incorrect.
What'd you call Mordor?
Morgorb.
More
Steve, I want to tell you something. I want to whisper you a little secret and tell me if this means anything to you. So you know how Pam is the final girl? Do you know what that makes her?
What?
Final Pam.
Okay.
That cuts off so comically abruptly. I love it.
Yeah, the final Pam. I know the final Pam. I'm familiar.
Yeah.
Also,
her name is Pam.
Yeah, and also Jason's mom's name is Pam. I wonder if they did
Yeah.
that on purpose or if it's just kind of like a. They must
Somebody
have
did that on
They
purpose.
had to have
The
done it on
director did not
purpose.
do that on purpose.
But it only like
No,
has
it had to have been on purpose.
But it only has impact if it's actually Jason and it's not. That's the thing. Stupid. If
But
it
maybe
was
they're just
actual
like-
Jason, then it would have some sort of
But
impact.
everything is a red herring because they meant
Yeah.
this movie to have way more meaning than it did in the end.
This movie sucks.
It means
man.
nothing.
Oh,
I guess
Ish.
I guess they used the Jason thing to cover up the kills, and then here's how I wrote out the end of the movie. But then Andy goes nuts and kills Pam, but then it was a dream. But then Jason lives and is in his hospital room. But then that was a vision.
Yeah,
But then
movie is
Andy
Jason
dons the mask, but then Pam actually goes to the room and Andy has escaped, but then not really.
All right.
You think he
That's
goes through
dream.
the window, but he's
Part of
behind
it is
the
a dream.
door.
But he's behind the door.
Yeah, it's
Which is the opposite of the thing with the door and the window, isn't it?
Yes, it's convoluted to the point that it's like it's like if cocaine was a person, a physical manifestation of cocaine.
It's like
and
somebody
it is the end of-
explaining a story to you while they're on cocaine. This whole movie is kind of like that.
But this point in particular is
Yes.
like the most unhinged because they're trying to do a dream sequence, but then they're like, okay, but just pretend like the dream sequence didn't happen, and we're going to continue from where the dream sequence ended from the other thing that we saw earlier, which was the cop talking to her, but it's going to cut off, and then it's going to be the real ending.
I don't know. It actually worked for me because at this point, the movie's been so ridiculous that I was
You
just like,
expected it to be
yeah,
more
yeah,
ridiculous.
of course. This
Yeah.
is perfect. Great ending. And then the X-ray was like, this was meant to be this. And I was like, well, that makes sense because it doesn't.
I do like that he he had a dream about him killing her, right? With the knife, where he's like, ah, and kills her. But then he's like, I'm going to do that for real, but I'm going to pretend I escaped first. And then I'm going to kill her. It's like he could have just done it the same way that happened in the dream.
The way I took that ending is that he keeps being afraid that he's going to turn into the monster, and that's why he's having these dreams. But then he just he's afraid because it's a thing that's going to happen, because that's his internal desires from his loony binness, is that he finally succumbs to that. Like the real Tommy falls to pieces and the dream Tommy becomes real Tommy, and then the movie ends.
Dream Tommy.
Old Dream Tommy.
They were going to bring back the Pam character in the next movie, though, along with Tommy. And then they were like, Jason or we riot, and they canceled that project.
But the thing is, they brought Tommy back. They could have brought Pam back too. And just
No, Tommy as
Oh,
Jason.
I thought you
the
meant like
killer.
okay. But they wanted to bring Pam back as Pam, and then Tommy would be, I guess, like hunting her as Jason.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there
So
was
like Jason and Tommy, and then Tommy and Pam, and then
because I know that they
circle of life,
right, as they say, Tommy,
the great mandala.
Yeah, keeps going around and around and around. I know that they wanted to use this as the jumping point for a new trilogy, where
A new beginning.
a new beginning where Jason Voorhees was no longer part of it, and they would have, you know, the ability to continue this as this sort of
They would have Pam and Tommy.
yes.
Oh shit!
And then by the end, it would
Waka
be
waka.
Jason is killed again, or Tommy is killed, and then a new killer takes over, and there's another 3 movies with, you know, Pam is now Jason instead of Tommy or whatever, which is like, I guess, an interesting
I would
idea.
like a lady Jason.
A Lady Voorhees, yeah. I mean,
Lady Voorhees
that was the first movie. That's very first one.
True, but bring it back, you know?
I don't disagree. But I also do like more so Jason becoming a true monster in the fashion of like a universal monster, where he's immortal, and you know there's all this magic sort of surrounding it that's brought on by human beings being terrible, and the negative energy put out by humanity is what's like manifesting in Jason Voorhees to like continuously bring him back to it. I like that a little more.
I misrepresented my thoughts. What I meant is I don't care.
I appreciate not caring more than caring so much that you're like, Lady Voorhees, or I'm out of here.
It should be a woman. No, like I truly am not invested in this.
I know, and I'm like invested to the point that I have liked.
I got Mothra as my representations.
Right. I like the character of Jason Voorhees as
universal monster.
A universal monster that can teleport and do all these weirdly ghostly things that I
Universal
like.
Studios.
I think there's a new breed
monsters theme park. Like one of it's the Mystery of Magic is going to be one, How to Train Your Dragon Land, and then they're going to have Universal Monsters, like the old school guys,
like the classic, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd
That's
be down
cool.
for that. If you go in there and everything's in black and white, like painted to look like like a old Frankenstein movie or something, that'd be so cool.
Road trip?
I'm having a situation where my screen has fully exploded, so I just want to say,
so long and thanks for all the fish.
yeah, pretty much. I'm gonna try to. I don't know if I should leave and come back. We're so close to the end. Maybe we should.
We can see you perfectly.
I know it looks fine on the stream. It's just my screen looks wrong. Maybe we should do.
Am I cursed?
Maybe we should do the MPAA rating game.
Yeah, I mean we're kind of going through final thoughts anyway, so yeah.
This movie had to go back to the MPAA 6 times before it got its R rating.
Well, it's still got a rating, so.
I wonder why they had to keep going back, said the pornographer.
Was it the porno?
Steinmann or whatever his name was, Steinmann.
Do you want to, have we covered everything in this movie? I think we have. It's very late.
And more.
Yeah.
And how. All of Bill Pullman's filmography.
It's time to play Guess the MPAA.
Game on the internet.
Sorry, I think you kind of got jumbled.
What? You sounded like a Peanuts adult.
Welcome to the greatest game on the internet. It is, of course, the MPAA rating game. The MPAA rating is a certificate rating that the MPAA gives to every single movie in existence, unless it does not. It's a simple number that indicates that the movie has been rated. It's a 5-digit number. Oh, Tim says time for the best game. Of course, because it is. It is a 5-digit number. I'm going to give you the first 2 numbers of that 5-digit number. And of course, all you have to do is guess the next 3 numbers in the 5-digit number. This week's number starts with 27. The guest always goes first. So Noel, guess that number.
319.
Higher. Steve.
950.
Lower. Noel.
540.
Higher. Steve for the final guess.
727.
Ooh, can you hit that buzzer for me?
Oh no, I don't have a buzzer noise.
Fart noise.
Oh god.
Fart noise.
Guys, you got this.
No, wait. Fart. Damn.
The MPAA rating certificate number for this week was 27734. How close was that? How close was that?
It was pretty close.
Wow. So with
The
that,
MPAA, everyone. The MPAA. Wow.
I think you're right, Tim. I think that was the closest ever.
Okay, the guest should not go first because that's an advantage to Steven.
How is it? He could just look it up. He could just look it up.
Okay, any of us could just look it up, but we know we're not supposed to, so that we play the game.
I think Jason just wants me to win one day.
I do too. We need a winning theme. We need a losing theme. We need lots for this old StreamYard here. But why don't we talk about our final thoughts?
Wait, don't we have one other thing that we need to talk about? I think we always forget about this.
Yeah.
But we really need to understand when this movie became a movie. What is the Home Alone of it all?
If you had to pick one,
What do you think the Home Alone
when
of it
is
all?
the Home Alone of it all?
Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone
I
of it
really
all
gotta
happened?
know.
When is the Home Alone of it
What
all?
is the Home Alone of it all? Now that's the Home
The
Alone
Home
of it
Alone of it
all.
all. This is, of course, the time in the movie that relates to the film Home Alone. In Home Alone, we all love the part where Harry and Merv attack Kevin McAllister mercilessly in his home. But luckily, Kevin McAllister has created a series of booby traps to ensnare, potentially murder these two men. It's a theory among us here at Hey Did You See This One that it's possible that most movies have a moment like this that you kind of go to see. Could be the trailer moment, could just be the third act. But in this movie, I ask you, I implore you, what is the Home Alone of it all? Once again, the guest always goes first. Noel, what's the Home Alone of it all for you?
Can I go last?
Fucking goddamn. Steve, what's the Home Alone of it all?
Me? Okay. The Home Alone of it all is, I think, probably the moment when the two greasers are starting to act like Jason Friday the 13th characters, where they're, stranded on the side of the road and they start to just say a bunch of stuff that make you as an audience dislike them enough that you would be okay with them being murdered. That's when it starts, and that's when it kind of ends, because throughout the rest of the movie it's just that repeated over and over again. So that's my Home Alone of it all, I think.
And to that note, I think similarly it sort of pops off when the sex pod couple goes into the woods and they have sex with each other.
Off.
And they pop off, and that guy finishes in like 1 minute and she's satisfied somehow. That's how you know it's a porno. But literally the same idea as Steve's, like when the killing starts killing, the killing starts killing. So deep, so poetic. Noel, it's now your turn.
So I don't fully understand the concept of the Home Alone of it all. I don't know why my brain won't do it. I don't think this movie ever became a movie. But if I had to pick one,
from my understanding, it's this.
When the axe is in the air and he's chopping the wood?
Yes.
Okay.
That first shot of the axe, that's when the movie became a movie.
That's actually pretty interesting. That's a good point, because shortly after that we get that like misdirect. Okay. Acceptable. I accept that.
It's a good answer.
That is a good answer.
Oh, thank you. Domo arigato.
Mr. Roboto.
Thank you very much.
But we've all gone now, have we not?
Yeah, we have. That's all of us. It's
Well,
time for our final thoughts.
It's time for our final thoughts.
Just like at the beginning of the show, we tell the guest to go first. So, Noel, you can't get out of this one. What are your final thoughts? And if you have like a rating, maybe out of 5 out of 10, or maybe a joke rating, please let us know.
Joke? I like jokes. So my final thoughts are, I don't know what I was getting into. I found it pretty enjoyable. It's a stupid movie. No one should ever watch it. It shouldn't be $4.99 on Amazon. Watch it if you care. It doesn't matter. This movie changes nothing about anything, and that's kind of a fun thing. That's not going to make you feel mad about anything or happy about anything or anything about anything. One of my headphones just died, so that's fun. A rating. Okay, no, I think this has a lot of camp value. I haven't seen any of the other ones, so I don't know how it compares to the other campiness of the camp thing, but I think there's a certain strain of stupidity in this one that makes it like, I don't know, campy.
Bearable. Campy, yeah.
Yeah, like camp as fuck. Is that
One
something you
camp
can
out
say?
of one camp out of Crystal Lake.
And one of the only ones that doesn't take place at Camp Crystal Lake, ironically enough.
Haha. So they had to make up for it in theme.
Yeah, exactly. Double down on the camp because we don't have a camp to back us up.
Okay. On a scale from, I don't know, what's the worst movie you can think of?
That's fun.
That's it.
Okay, you're like,
It's a good scale, and
on a scale of like
totally
from
makes sense.
Mortal Kombat 2 to
What's
Annihilation
What's
2.
the-
I can't think of the worst movie because it's hard. It shifts, right? Your mind.
Plan 9 from Outer Space is the classic.
Yeah, but I don't know.
The worst movie I've ever watched. I
But
don't
the
know.
room is so
Drew-
fun to watch.
Dribble in the chat says Mortal Kombat Annihilation. You want to pull that up, Steve?
That's what I said.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
It is a good answer. Yeah.
Okay, so from Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which I've never seen, but I get the idea, to the best movie ever made, Frozen 2. I would say this lands sharply near the bottom.
Right.
Sharply near the bottom.
Baby
Maybe
Geniuses
one of the
2
worst
is good.
movies I've ever watched.
Alec Baldwin plays a baby.
On
I'm
the
Alec Baldwin.
Rompometer, though?
That's Boss Baby Jason.
Oh, Baby Geniuses is the one where the babies have CGI mouths.
Yeah.
On the Rompometer, this is a romp.
Okay.
We got to make a rompometer.
It's true. Steve, typically here, this is where we do the Undertaker dongs, and a little applause for Noel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Noel.
Steve, what was your final thought for Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning?
Well, I've said this probably 4 to 10 times throughout this discussion that we've had, this roundtable discussion about the movie Friday the 13th, the Part 5, A New Beginning, that this movie, I've seen it, I don't know, I don't even know how many times I've seen it. I've seen it at least 4 times. And my brain refuses to absorb it as a movie. It takes little bits, but then it takes those bits that I like and it sprinkles it into other Jason movies that I do like, making my brain think that the good bits of this movie exist in other movies that I like more. So I think my brain hates this movie. I can't be certain until I die and they pull my brain out and examine it. But I know that
This movie gave you CTE.
I don't like this movie. But there's enough stuff in it that keeps you watching and makes you feel okay about watching something that you don't like. You know, I like the ooh baby. I like Ethel as a character. I think she's funny, and like every time she's on screen, I'm excited. I think this movie could have benefited from having an all Ethel, like make it mostly Ethel. Mostly Ethel is what the subtitle of this movie should have been called. Friday the 13th, Part 5, Mostly Ethel would have been a good movie. Lots of missed opportunities, lots of things they set up and didn't pay off. So many breadcrumbs that just got, I guess, confused for cocaine and sniffed up people's noses. I don't know. It's hard to give this movie a rating. I think if I had to give this a rating, I would say that to the viewer of this movie, I would just say, you big dildo, eat your fucking slop. Because I think that's what everybody who made this movie was thinking about the people who watch it. Is just people who just eat their fucking slop. That
Eat
was
your
what,
Let-
fucking slop.
that's
Let
what the
the
movie
fools have their tartar
exactly like.
sauce.
We're the dildos and we're eating the slop when we watch this movie.
All right, thank you, Steve.
shit,
Thank
sorry, I
you,
forgot.
Steve. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve, for your final thoughts of the
The
film,
sweet
the movie,
observations.
the film, Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. It was for sure a Friday the 13th movie, but something felt off. It felt too polished or something. And I mean polished like it, I think just the version that I watched. Why is everybody gone? Are you still
Where's
here?
everyone?
We're here.
Oh.
I'm here.
I thought maybe it would be
Got
good
rid
if
of
like when
us.
you're giving your final thoughts, we like zoom in on you.
Oh, that's actually a good idea. Let's utilize that down the road.
But I want to see everyone else's face.
That's true. When we laugh and stuff, it's fun.
I think out of the
I just
movies,
spend the whole time looking at Steven, to be honest.
Really?
When
Same.
he's not there. I was just
Me
freaked
too.
out.
Me too, honestly. Can you pull up? Can you pull up Tim's rating?
Yeah.
Tim had a great rating. I
That's
think
great.
I think out of all of the movies, it has the best pacing as far as keeping me entertained and wondering what was going to happen next. The kills were pretty fun, but some really stuck out. Besides the head leather twist and the old Jason playback stab through the bed.
Can I just say the head leather twist sounds like a weird dance move from like the late 1930s?
That's what I was going for. It's not a well-told story, and the stereotypes almost felt a little too tropey, but that could have been intentional since it may have just happened in Andy's mind.
Andy?
Oh, we didn't have the
Oh, I'm
crazy
Tommy's
theory.
mind.
Andy.
Andy. I fully wrote Andy by accident. What'd you say, Noel?
You didn't do your crazy theory corner.
Well, it's not really. It's sort
The
of
whole movie is a crazy theory corner.
yeah. That is my theory. This all happened in Tommy's mind. The
That's
whole
what I
shit.
mean. Yay, we got it.
We got one. We got one, folks.
Who knows? I gave this movie a 2.4 out of 5.
That's very generous.
That's high, yeah.
Because it's a very watchable movie you can talk about, which I think is important for film. And it's bad, it's stupid, but like I was enthralled and entertained throughout it. Like I liked watching it, even though it was dumb and made no sense.
Right.
I give this movie showing every scream queen in the film's boobs. That's what I give it.
Okay. I see.
That's what I give this movie. It's
Oh, my sneeze.
very interesting to me that a porn man made it. I think that's one of my favorite things.
It is interesting for sure, but it's not a good thing.
I would rather watch this movie like over and over again than Zack Snyder's Justice League one more time.
Wow. Twice was enough. Once regular, once Josh Whedon style, and once black and white style.
No, I watched Zack Snyder cut. No, sorry. I watched the Joss Whedon cut, then watched the Zack Snyder cut, and then was like, wait a second, what was the Joss Whedon cut? Then I watched that again. Then I watched the Zack Snyder cut again because I couldn't remember which was which. So I've seen them both twice.
Didn't you have a hard out at 9:30? Noel, we've reached the end of the show, and of course, every single week of our lives forever, we ask the same question we ask each and every week. Noel, could you ask that question for us?
Hey, did you see this one?
Yes, it makes me crazy that I don't. It's a still screen of Steve on my screen. I don't know what to do. I can't end the stream. I can't start the stream.
I mean, I can end it, but I can still, everything's going fine right now, Jason. On my screen, it looks great. Everything looks great.
I know I'm being over dramatic.
Oh, I
for
didn't realize
effect.
we were being over dramatic. Unlike everybody in this movie who was being supremely under dramatic. Am I right over here? Gee
This
whiz.
fucking guy.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was
Yeah.
fun.
Thanks for
It was a good
coming.
time.
Chucky,
No,
did you like
anytime.
our guest today? No, he likes you. He likes
Jason,
you.
did you like our guest today?
Oh, yeah. He's nodding. He's nodding. He's
Fart, did you like our guest today?
nodding. Oh, Fart doesn't like anybody. Oh, he likes you
He
guys.
likes you.
He really does.
He does.
You like
Oh,